If people could take their seats, please. All right, we're going to call our meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Born and unborn.
All right, we're going to hold the August 19th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the August 26, 2019 special meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. For our presentations, we have a presentation of our reaccreditation award to the Police Department by Christine Crocker of the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission, the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission, and she's going to be joined by Detective Kuzman. So I'm going to call them up to the podium.
Good evening. It's an
Welcome.
honor and a pleasure to be here, not for the first time, but for the second time, to recognize the Narragansett Police Department for showing that they truly are a professional and forward-thinking police department. For those of you, and I feel bad that I have my back to you, who may not be familiar with what accreditation really is, I try to compare it to hospital accreditation. I don't think any of us would have surgery in a hospital that's not accredited, or we're not going to spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year to send our children to a college or university that's not accredited. In today's challenging environment where law enforcement is facing new challenges daily, it only makes sense that they're following industry-recognized best practices. They are the gatekeepers of our communities. Accreditation provides them the tools to ensure that their personnel have the guidelines to perform their job, the skills that they need, the training, and this agency has proven that for the second time. As I'm sure Detective Kuzman can say, attaining accreditation, although it's not easy, it is the easier part. Maintaining accreditation, proving that you're adhering to these standards, takes a lot of time and effort, and you should all be very proud of your police department. They were the 11th agency in the state to attain state accreditation out of 46 agencies that are in the program. And we still have agencies who have not yet attained accreditation, and the Narragansett Police Department is being recognized as achieving reaccreditation tonight. That's quite the honor, and you should be very proud of them. During their initial accreditation, now Chief Corrigan was the accreditation manager, so he can attest to the work involved. And as the chief, I'm sure it served him quite well, having been the accreditation manager. Chief, if I could call you up to receive your award. On behalf of the Rhode Island Police Accreditation Commission, the Narragansett Police Department has voluntarily complied with the required standards as set forth by the Commission and is hereby awarded this certificate of accreditation, effective this third day of September 2019, and hereby shall be recognized as an accredited agency for a term of 3 years. Again, congratulations, Chief. And Detective, 3 years will come again very quickly. Thank you and have a good evening.
Congratulations, thank you for coming, and congratulations to the department. Next, we have a presentation from the Fernman Triathlon from Fred Bartlett of Firm. Is he here? Yes. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Good evening, everybody. This is the 23rd year of the Fernman Triathlon in Narragansett. FIRM is an acronym for Fisk Independent Race Management. It's a company out of Massachusetts. Bill Fisk is the owner and operator of probably the largest on the East Coast triathlon company. He is in his mid-70s and is retiring, so this will be the last year for the Fernman Triathlon, which is scheduled this Sunday at 7 a.m. at Narragansett Town Beach. Part of the reason that we do this triathlon is that half the net profits of the race go back to the individual community or organization. So over 23 years now, FIRM has turned back close to $200,000 to the town of Narragansett in the form of recreation for parks and recreation, scholarship funds, fees for league fees, things like that, that the recreation department can use at their own discretion. That's not budgeted from the town, the taxpayers' money. I don't work for FIRM. I'm a local resident. I live right down the street, and I've just helped out the last 23 years trying to get the triathlon community, the athletic community involved here in Narragansett because it's such a great place. And so again, this Sunday will be our last year. I'll probably come and see you guys one more time with some more checks. So these are the checks from last year's race. $3,000 will go to the Parks and Recreation Department from last year's race, and hopefully this weekend our numbers will be up because it will be the last year here at Narragansett. If you've been around the town lately, you've seen a lot of orange arrows and green arrows and markings. That's me for the direction of the race course. Those markings will fade out within 1 or 2, 3 months, and we won't even know that a triathlon existed here before. So I want to thank all the councils and all the people over the 23 years that have helped us put this race on. A couple people in particular, Tom Tessitore, who's with the Parks and Recreation, has been there from day one, helping me out and growing this race. We're down to about 300 people now. We used to have 600 or 700, 800 people, but triathlon, the sport is kind of going downhill as far as it's reached its peak. So I want to thank everybody involved, the police department, the fire departments, all the people, all the volunteers that I have. I'm the, quote, volunteer coordinator, but I like to look at myself as the chief bottle washer. Everything that I can get done in Narragansett, because we have such a great community, I try to get done here. So I want to thank everybody, and again, I'll see you one more time with some checks, and hopefully not a year late, okay? So thank you very much, and I'll give these to Steve.
Thank you. Steve, if you want to come up. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so we can do it that way. We'll do it that way. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we have our consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull an item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull number 6.
All right, is there any other item? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 6 is a motion to approve 21-day peddler licenses in conjunction with the Calamari Festival to be held on September 7, 2019 at Veterans Memorial Park, subject to state and local regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Jill?
Yes, the director of the Chamber of Commerce is in the audience, so I thought she might like to take the opportunity to come up and talk about the Calamari Festival.
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I have a couple of housekeeping notes, but the Calamari Festival, you'll see the orange and green arrows from the firm, but you'll also see a purple squid here and there around town, and that's us. The festival is September 7th, which is Saturday, and it runs from 11 to 5. And it looks like we've dodged the Dorian, and so it looks like we're going to be okay for Saturday, but we will put updates on both the Chamber of Commerce website and the Rhode Island Calamari Fest website in case anything crazy happens weather-wise. This year, you can purchase tickets online and in advance by either going to either one of those websites, and the tickets are only $20, and children 12 and under come in free. And for the $20, you get to taste calamari from 9 different restaurants, and we've got them coming from all over the place. Our local favorites, George's, Coast Guard House, Marina Grill, Chair 5, The Muse. We also have Dan's Carriage Inn, the Haversham, Parma Ristorante, and Skyline at Water Place coming down from Providence. Also in the festival area, we're going to have 24 vendors and food trucks for those of you who don't like fish and would rather a burger or something else. Bless you. And for the children, we have touch-a-trucks, go-karts, the Batmobile, a model squid net's going to be set up so that the kids understand what's going on with our fisheries. And the South County YMCA Children's Program people are nice enough to donate their time and their effort to run the children's section with a obstacle course. So for the adults, of course, we have a beer garden, and there are going to be 3 bands that everybody can enjoy. I do encourage everyone to come out and support our fishing industry, support the community, and you know, if I may, while I'm up here, take a moment to say thanks to a couple of people. I've been in this position for almost a year now, and the chamber area, or where we are in the tower, serves 2 purposes. One is as a welcome center, of course, for the town of Narragansett, and the other is for a chamber. And I have to tell you, I have been so incredibly impressed by the town partners and how well everyone has worked with me and worked with each other. I just wanted to give a couple shout outs while I have the opportunity to do so. First of all, I want to thank the TPW people, especially Ziggy, who is our go-to guy. No matter what happens, we call Ziggy and he makes it happen somehow. So Mike, thanks for sharing him with us. Mike DeLuca has been a really gigantic help to us with the Jingle Bell Run. He's out there in the cold and in the wind and the rain, and it doesn't matter. He does it for us, and is also helping us out with the Calamari Fest. Steve Wright and his whole team is just phenom. What else can you say? And the Lions Club leadership has been second to none. And Ricky, thanks for getting us those gates that we need. Let's see here. And I cannot thank Terry and Kathy and the crowd in the town clerk's office. They are just so knowledgeable, so helpful, have given me such terrific, invaluable guidance, and I cannot thank you enough. I really cannot thank you enough. And lastly, kind of shout outs for a couple of you folks. And of course, everyone's welcome in the chamber, but Matt, appreciate you giving us a shout out every once in a while for things we have going on. And Jill, without you, we wouldn't have our hot water, I don't think, and some of our volunteers from URI, so we really appreciate your help on that. And lastly, I just want folks to know, we host over 25,000 people a year in that facility, believe it or not. We had 2,700 people walk in there in July alone. So we really appreciate it. And in spite of all of our differences and our issues and what we have going on with each other here, I have to tell you that our visitors who come here are just so incredibly impressed with Narragansett, how clean everything is, how wonderful our people are, how beautiful our whole area is. And today someone wrote in that we should be a national monument. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you so much. And I welcome everybody to come in on Saturday.
Thank you. And that starts at 11 a.m., correct? Yes. All right, all in favor, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 7, a motion to approve the purchase and installation services of 3 MDT tablets and 3 new police vehicles from Island Tech Services, LLC, in the amount of $17,829.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 8, a motion to waive current policy and authorize the use of the general construction services contract with Abcor Restoration Company, Incorporated, for the renovation to Station Number 3 on Boston Neck Road in the amount of $56,460.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All right. All in favor? Do you have a comment?
Sorry about that. I was just reading through something. Is this included in the capital improvements budget already? Does anyone know?
I'm pretty sure that it is. Yes, it is. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Correct? Chief, where is he? Yes, we approved it. We talked about it in the workshops. Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 9 is a motion to approve the annual service contract for the interoperable radio communication system for Motorola Incorporated in the amount of $33,725 for the fiscal year 2019-2020, and to authorize the acting town manager to sign the contract after review by the town solicitor.
So moved.
Discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 10 is a motion to approve the purchase of one new Doosan Light Tower generator from ATS Equipment Incorporated utilizing the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement, MPA number 91, in the amount of $11,185.
So moved.
Discussion. All right, this is to help with lighting for some of the night work that's performed. Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. I'm sorry, I misspoke. That was, did I just do 10 or 11?
11.
Did I skip 10?
No.
No, okay. All right, item number 12, a motion to award the bid for road striping services to Safety Market Incorporated at their quoted unit prices for the fiscal year 2019-2020 and 2020-2021.
So moved.
Discussion. Anyone? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I'm sorry.
You need to do number 11.
Motion approved 5-0. I think that's why I meant, I saw the same language. Okay, so I skipped 11. I'm sorry about that. All right, item number 11 is a motion to approve the purchase of one new Doosan air compressor from ATS Equipment utilizing the Rhode Island Master Price Agreement number 91 in the amount of $24,225.
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 13 is a motion to approve the purchase of one Everest 10-foot one-way style snowplow from J.C. Madigan Incorporated pursuant to the Greater Boston Police Council contract in the amount of $11,225.
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 14 is a motion to award the bid for T-shirts and golf shirts for the Parks and Recreation Department to the lowest bidder, SP Designs and Manufacturing, at their quoted prices for a one-year period ending September 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 15 is a motion to waive the current policy and authorize the use of the general construction services contract with Abcor Restoration Company Incorporated for the first phase renovations to the recreational building at the camp on Clark Road in the amount of $58,640.
So moved.
Discussion. Any comments or questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Motion approved 5-0. Item 16 is a motion to approve change order number 1 for additional work on the original award and approve the contract amendment for the playing courts rehabilitation project with Joyce Construction Incorporated for the total amount of $71,417.
So moved.
Discussion.
I do have a question for Stephen Wright, if that's all right with you.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming up. I guess my one question would be, what was the idea behind asking for an amendment for this rather than putting it out to bid as a new project, since
Sure.
it is 3 new courts?
So there are actually 2 projects. Originally, we had a original $85,000 carryover in our capital improvement projects back from 2017. And in 2018, 18-19 budget, we had $104,000 to increase that amount so we could do these 3 projects. One was for George C. tennis courts, the Clark Road pickleball courts, and the Leroy Thompson Boone Street basketball court. We put that out to bid in March 29, 2019. That was awarded by the town council on May 20th. And the purchase order was awarded on 7/19, July 19th, and work started in August. So subsequently, we also were awarded $90,000 in additional funding from this council back on 4/25/19 to do additional courts for this fiscal year starting July 1st. So if you look at what we're trying to do is we have a contractor in town doing work on existing courts that we're working on, George C. tennis, pickleball courts, and Leroy Boone Street basketball court. And we're looking to do the same work on Cristofaro basketball courts and the George C. basketball courts. It makes sense to amend that contract instead of putting it back out to bid. They're going to use the same unit prices, the same work we're going to be putting back. We'd have to put it back, send them away for the winter, put it back out to bid, have them come back in the spring, probably increase prices. The change order is for the existing contract because when they get on site, there is puddling and resurfacing that you can't see until you get on the job. So that's $16,000 is a change order for all 3 of the existing projects that we're doing, which I think is very reasonable.
All right, and is your thinking that since you only received 1 response to the initial request, that would be the case again?
Exactly, because this is a unique system. Instead of having to rip up the entire court system and repave it, this is an armor system with a plexi pave. I give the engineering department credit for actually seeking the system out. And as long as anything else, if you look about deferred maintenance, it's all over the state talking about deferred maintenance, and I'm a big advocate about maintaining what we have. If you take a look, if you put money into maintaining what we have, and 5 to 7 years down the road maintaining these courts, and not to this kind of money, but just maintaining what we have, these will last for a long time. And so this is something that I think we should just stay on a regular schedule and do preventive maintenance on these courts. They will last for quite some time.
And so I'm clear, you anticipate that if you did put this out to bid, it would be the same 1 response?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And what's good about it is if you use the analogy, you put your house out to bid for a painting, and you got the contractor on site doing a fabulous job, and then you want your bond painted. Why would you put it back out to bid? You're happy with a contractor doing a good job. That's not we've had contractors on jobs that we're not happy with. We're very happy with this contractor. They're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. First, it's not comparable to doing a private job to do a public job. Every time we put these bids out, we get a certain amount, we award them, and next thing you know, we're coming back with an upcharge. This is a 15% upcharge. Joyce Construction's been in business a number of years. I don't understand how they can't estimate a job more accurately than this. I don't understand how any of them can't estimate a job more accurately than they do. My husband and I have built a number of houses. We've never had a contractor come to us and say, we need a 15% upcharge. In any event, this is a separate contract. It's what is attached to the agenda. It says proposed additional work. There's 3 items, $54,659. I really think it should be put out to bid. Maybe another company wants to tackle this. Maybe they didn't want to tackle pickleball courts. But this is public money. And I don't think you should just amend a contract and tack $54,000 worth of work. It's not $5,000, it's $54,000. And as I said, there may be companies out there who want to bid this time. And I just don't think all this, he's going to be in town, might be a delay. It doesn't really matter. This is public money. There's procedure. We have to do what's right. And again, I know I've said this before, is I don't know why these bids can't be put out for amount certain. You bid an amount and you're stuck with it. Not that you bid a low amount and then come back with these upcharges.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Motion approved, 5-0. Item 17 is a motion to provide a decision on the waiver request submitted to the Sewer Policy Committee relative to the following property: Plat D, Lot 210, 151 Ocean Road. I'm actually going to look for a motion to continue this item to September 16th because the applicant indicated that it's not ready for tonight. Is there a
So
motion
moved.
to continue?
Motion to continue.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 18 is a motion to authorize the town manager to advertise on the South County Style Vacation Guide.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Go ahead.
I had a number of people tell me this year that the town was more crowded than ever. I took the opportunity to speak with the chamber this morning and asked what type of advertising they do, and found out that they do indeed advertise for the town. We have so many activities during the summer for the town and for our town visitors: free concerts, free movies at the beach. I don't see why we would want to advertise to have more people come. We are fortunate enough to have, I think, not one but two articles written by the New York Times recently talking about the hidden joy that we are here in Narragansett. And from the residents who spoke to me, there's enough traffic here already in the summer. Why ask for more?
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the council?
Sure. I wasn't aware of this item until it got on the agenda. I thought the policy for expenditures that we approve was anything under $5,000 was just didn't have to be approved by the council. Is that not a policy?
Under 10,000 is consent agenda. So we could have, this could have gone on the consent agenda. We just didn't put it on.
Okay.
Yep.
And is there an amount that doesn't have to be approved at all? That just is done by the head of the department?
Sean can answer that, but I usually think it's a little lower. I want to say it's under 1,000, but just the thresholds. Consent agenda is 10,000. What's the department head's discretionary amount?
I think that would have been fine, but I thought that there's been a history of doing this, but I think for some of the points that Jill brought up, it would be a good idea to have it here before the council to discuss and approve if you want to continue to do this. It's something that we've done every year, but it doesn't have to continue.
We've done it for the last 5 years. Is that correct?
I don't have a problem with it. Feels to be like a little bit of micromanaging here for $1,800. But yeah, I don't know why it's even on here to be voted on. Seems like it should just be done by whoever's in charge of that advertising. So that's my opinion.
Ditto.
Well, typically, though, Sean, just so that we're clear, though, we would put agenda items on for this, whether they're consent or regular. 10,000 is a consent number, but
So this was on
department
last
heads.
year? Was this one on last year?
Was this on last year?
I don't know if it was last year. I was just doing the police chief
Yeah.
last year.
Well, as a town manager, it's under 2,500.
Well, over 1,000.
It's
Right,
over
it's
1,000.
1,000.
All right.
Should have
That's
been
a
on the
cutoff?
consent agenda,
Oh, okay.
but it's worthy of discussion.
I'm
I would
good
say.
with it. I'm good with it.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
You know what? Motion fails 2-2. I'm going to abstain on it. All right. Item number 19, a motion to receive a certification by the Narragansett Board of Canvassers of a voter initiative petition to amend the town charter to create a recall provision.
I'll move that motion.
Second?
All right, discussion. So this process began several months ago. When Winters Hames put in a recall provision for a recall that would be on the 2020 ballot that the community would vote on in the 2020 general election, to add a recall provision to our town charter. And so then we had to see if that question was a valid legal question. The council said it was. And then the applicant had to collect signatures, and those signatures were collected. I'm going to then hand it off to the town clerk and the town manager just to walk us through, after the signatures were collected, and what the Board of Canvassers did to update us on what the next steps are and what we're doing here.
Okay, so the petitions were duly signed and notarized and submitted to the town clerk between May 14th and July 11th, and the deadline for submission was July 16th. The Board of Canvassers clerk verified the signatures contained on the petitions against the Narragansett registered voter list and reported the following to the board during the meeting called for that purpose on August 9th. The number of signatures required was 856. The number of signatures tallied was 1,344. The number of signatures declared valid was 1,220. And the number of signatures declared invalid were 124. That was based on signatures that were disqualified because they were duplicates, completely illegible, received past the deadline, or those of individuals who were not qualified electors of the town of Narragansett. So then the next part of the process is when the town council receives the petition, according to the town charter, the duly certified petition with the accompanying proposed legislation shall be placed on the council agenda for a final vote within 45 days of the council's receipt of said petition. If within this time the council fails to act upon said legislation, rejects said legislation, or enacts said legislation in a materially different form, the legislation as originally proposed shall be submitted to the electorate of the town of Narragansett on referendum ballot at the next regularly scheduled general election.
All right, so everyone can see the language of the proposed charter amendment, which would include a recall provision for us. Any comments or questions from the council?
Yeah, I have a question. I mean, can we find out somehow what this is going to cost the taxpayers of this town if this moves forward? Because I'm sure that's a concern. You're going to put something out there, and then you're going to recall people, and then you're going to have a special election. I think the taxpayers, if there's a cost behind this, I think that we should know what the cost is. That's all I'm saying. If there
So
isn't, I don't have a problem.
What we can do is identify what the cost of, we can identify what the cost of a special election would be, and have that information. It would be if a recall took place. So the way the recall would work is that after the election, there'd be a time frame in which people could submit signatures, and there'd be a certain percentage, and the number here is 25% of people who had voted in the last election, and then there would be a special election to recall that individual from office. And so that's how the recall works. Some states have it, some cities and towns have it, others don't. So it's but we would have to amend our charter to include it. And so there's benefits and drawbacks to it, but the initiative process allows it to be put on the 2020 ballot. So that's kind of where we are with it.
I'm on board with it. I'm trying to get out of this racket.
So just to be clear on this, what we're really voting on is Mark has already advised us that it is legal, what they're asking to do is legal in the town, and Terry has just advised us that the Board of Canvassers are saying that the signatures are the correct number. Yeah. So we are not voting to whether or not we believe that this item should be passed in 2020. We are just voting on the validity of the motion and the fact that everything was in order, correct?
Certification.
Okay.
We're receiving the certification, exactly.
Okay.
So just so everyone knows procedurally what's going on, we're receiving the certification that came from the Board of Canvassers of the 1,344 signatures. So in terms of the merits of it, people have different opinions. I think in a 2-year election cycle, this is my personal view, I would not vote for a recall provision because it's appropriate maybe in a 4-year election cycle, but in a 2-year election cycle, you could have constant elections. So I think that would be something that we would be in constant campaign mode, and I think that would not be healthy in a 2-year cycle. But again, this is not about whether we're for or against it. This is, again, receiving the certification. So any other comments or questions?
I think the candidate would be pretty bad for them to go out and get signatures of 25% of the populace that voted, and it would be a process that, believe me, somebody would have to be a pretty dismal candidate to go through that to do a recall. So,
All right. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Catherine Celebrato, 48 Earls Court. We have a recall provision in our state law. It's very specific. This recall petition has no parameters whatsoever. I don't know how it could possibly be valid. There's nothing in it at all. It doesn't say anything, somebody commits a crime, somebody malfeasance of office, nothing. There's no parameters at all. How could this possibly be a valid petition? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 20 is a motion to approve the sale of the old Belmont IGA building to PKV LLC for the price of $2,070,145 and to authorize the town of Narragansett to enter into a purchase and sales agreement for the sale of this real estate.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So this is a follow-up to the item that we've had last month that where we signed a purchase and sales agreement with Pier Liquors. And this is, as people know, this is a thing that we've been talking about in town for a long time. The bottom line is that we spent $2.8 million from our general fund. We have CAM fees that we have to pay to Gilbane year after year. We have a parking situation with the parking spots that has now become an issue. We are not sure who should be able to park in those spots or not. So in order for us to move forward, in order for us to recoup that $2.8 million, and for us to and for the betterment of the town, I've put this motion on. I've shared those reasons with the public in terms of my concerns about the CAM fees, the overall price, and the parking spot situation, and the proximity to the liquor store, all things that I thought were flaws in the original agreement. And so for now, what I want to do is just for the terms of the deal itself, I'm just going to turn over the town solicitor so he can share those terms with everybody here. Yeah.
Am I being served?
Oh, okay.
You haven't lived till you try to serve me.
The terms of the proposed purchase of the Belmont market space is for a total purchase price of $2,070,145, $50,000 to be paid as a deposit within 5 days of execution of the purchase and sales agreement. At closing, an additional $700,000, and then the balance of the purchase price would be in the form of a note payable to the town, accruing interest with interest payments only for up to 3 years, at an interest rate in year 1 equal to 5% of the then outstanding principal balance. Years 2 and 3, interest would accrue and be payable at a rate of 5.75% per annum. The loan would be secured by a mortgage in the real property, so the town would have a first position. and Carlos Muta, who's the member of the LLC, would personally guarantee the note. That's essentially subject to due diligence and some other contingencies that were consistent with what was in the Pier Liquor Store transaction. That's the basis of the deal.
All right, thank you. And so the terms of the deal, is there anyone from the council?
Yeah, I got a couple questions here. Mark, was there a proof of funds? He's putting down 700,000. Was there a proof of funds that he has 700,000? That's standard in a contract such as this.
No, there's not. We don't have a proof of funds.
You don't have a proof of funds. Okay. Was there a business plan submitted with this package to, kind of give the folks out there what the hell's going on here?
I don't know, Patrick, but you and the other council members each met with Carlos individually.
Right.
So if these were important.
Well, I was hoping to get some kind of, demonstration.
So that's my fault. So that's my fault.
Is the buyer here?
So that's my fault. The concept that's been put forward is in the middle of this area, there would be a kitchen area, and then around it, it would be an eatery style concept, and he would go to different businesses in town if they wanted to be part of that, and then there would be a seating area around that. So essentially, it's an eatery style, almost like a food court that I felt could supplement what we have in the summertime with the food trucks on Monday and Wednesday nights. I think it's the type of thing that a lot of people in town have spoken about. That they wanted to revitalize the pier over several years. They wanted to revitalize the pier. And this is something that I think was, when I sat down with him, sounded like a good idea. And so I do apologize for not expanding on that and sharing that part of the deal, because I think that, as I said, is something that could really revitalize the pier. It could supplement what we have in the summertime. In the wintertime, we know that things slow down. I'm not sure if it will be as effective. That's why we are taking the $750,000 deposit. If it doesn't work, it's something that will have $750,000 for the town, and then the property would come back to the town. So that's the mechanism we put in to protect ourselves. So that's kind of the details of what happened. In terms of, as Mark said, this was described in the preliminary offers that were made to us from the owner of this company, and his name is Carlos Mota, and what we said is, I said to all the council members, why don't you go and meet, if people want to meet with him, so each of the council members, I know they all at different times met with him, and I actually was the last of the council members to meet with him. So I felt like, because I had concerns that as I've expressed before, that I felt it was important for us to secure Pier Liquor's future first. I shared that with Mr. Muta, and so that's why we are where we are. So I apologize that I didn't share those details earlier, but go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, well, we spent, 4 to 6 months on student parking, 2 public hearings, and just exhaustive discussion on student parking. So we're going into a contract, now 1 public hearing, no business plan, no proof of funds, and then a promissory note based on what? Is there any collateral with that promissory note? I mean, is it
Yeah, it's the
terms?
property.
I understand that, but the 700,000, is there any? Nothing. All right, we've been there. Now, the other question I have, can the property be assigned? I see in the contract that says it cannot be assigned. Is that correct? Mark?
Can the property be assigned?
Reassigned. Can he take this contract and reassign it to another developer?
No.
All right, once the sale is through, the inspections are over, and he owns the building, and he's paying the note, and he's paying it on time, and he's a model tenant, owner, mortgagee, can he reassign it?
We would not release our lien. So I guess as a property owner, he could sell the property, but we would not release our lien. So I don't know how feasible that would be.
Well, what kind of legal ramifications that may hold for us in the future? That this guy wants to sell because he's not making it, or he wants a zoning change.
Like any other real estate transaction, they'd have to pay the lien off.
Right. But the problem is, if he pays the lien off,
Yeah.
can he go
Yes.
ahead and sell the project?
Yes.
Okay, see, so what we're doing is, it took us 50 years to get a chunk of the pier back, all right? Which I was very ecstatic with, And, I was one of the guys who put the library there, changed the dynamics of the pier, put something in the old library there, lease it out. I mean, we got at least one councilman who doesn't want to lease, but he has no problem being in the mortgage business. So that doesn't make any sense. So. I mean, I think it's an unknown. Listen, I got nothing against Carlos. In fact, for full disclosure, I tried to sell him other buildings. So I showed him 3 other buildings in town to try to, steer him away from this building. So, and he's a nice guy, and he seems like a stand-up guy. So I got nothing personal against him. This is business. This is like Godfather 2. It's business. It's about business. It's not personal. Does the buyer have the ability to open up a liquor store, to sell wine, to sell liquor in that concept?
That would be subject to zoning and town council approval.
I don't know. It's commercial. It would be
meaning adding another liquor license, which we don't have. So the answer is no.
I mean, if it's a restaurant, it would have to go through the same application and approval process that any other restaurant.
But
goes
isn't
through.
that kind of in conflict with the liquor store? I'm just trying to figure out where we're going here. There's a lot of questions people are asking me, and I'm just trying to get some answers.
Patrick, when I met with Mr. Moto, I was with Mark and Rick, and one of the things that he was expressing constantly was the concept he's currently working on in Connecticut. The key component of having the food court, which he calls it a European marketplace, was to have a liquor store next to it. And he was very excited about the fact that Pier Liquor was here. As a matter of fact, during the entire process, he really wanted to be able to work with Pier Liquor, and he sees that Pier Liquor's success will be the success of the European marketplace. And it should be noted, too, it's not a food court. You have the signs up saying food court. What his intent is to do is to really to help out, to be entrepreneurial. He lives here in town. He has a home here in town. He's been here for 12 years or 13 years. He's working on a project in Connecticut that's going to be opening up this fall that is much larger than this. What his intent is he's traveled the world, as he explained to Rick, myself, and Mark, in really researching these marketplaces. He loves this town and wants to help this town not only have people come here for the beach, but what about the shoulder seasons? To have people make Narragansett a destination for other opportunities, other times. His intent is to create potentially up to 20 professional kitchens on his dime. He's going to put about $2 million into the building and then operate it. Rich Fugue is here, one of the commercial fishermen president, and I just was discussing him tonight that potentially the Port of Galilee, the fishermen, the small businesses, the small family fishermen can go to this particular marketplace and sell fish, just like you see at the Fulton Fish Market. So it's an economic opportunity for the town to bring people here on the shoulder seasons. It's not a food court. It's certainly not going to be taking business away from the other businesses in town. To address your point about the food trucks, one point that Carlos brought up when we met with him is that he would ask the food trucks to come and park in the lot during the time that the market is open. He intends to have advertising. He intends to bring people here. He intends to make it a focal point of our community. And before we tell people that it's going to fail, let's have this guy give it a chance. That building's been vacant for how long? I think this is
we had a plan. We did have a plan. It didn't look like it.
No. Well, unfortunately, Patrick, there was something that happened in 2018 called an election, and you have new people with a new plan.
All right, so I guess this is...
His desire is to make it, to have it be complementary, and I did ask about places complementary to what we have in the pier, and I did ask him also, I said, is there flexibility here when I met with him, and I mentioned this when we were when we were all meeting afterwards about it, that he would be open to some retail concepts there if that was something that there was a demand for, because I mentioned things like Zero Wampum have closed and things and similar stores. So there is flexibility as well, but I just want to mention that he desires to have it be very complementary to what the businesses and not to take business away from them.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how you can place 20 smaller restaurants in a sea of restaurants that have 60, 70 days to get it right.
See, not
During the summer.
restaurants, marketplace. So there might be somebody selling bread, there might be somebody selling fish, selling meat, selling vegetables.
All right.
You're not talking about 20 different restaurants, but he has to set it up in a way. And excuse me, folks, can you?
Excuse me.
Quiet?
Excuse me.
The way that he set it up in Connecticut is really intriguing. He wants to be able to have a few very, very solid people that will be there year-round, and also have a portion that will be on a rotating basis, so that people will say, hey, what's going on this weekend? Let's go down to the marketplace and see what's happening down there. It's a unique concept. It's happening all over the country. Think about the Chelsea market in New York. This is a concept that is really unique and is going to draw people to our town.
But we don't have the demographics, Jill.
Sure we do.
No, we don't. Hartford, Connecticut, and Narragansett.
You guys one at a time.
Is a big stretch.
No, I agree, but we do have the demographics. Think about the college kids. I mean, they go to, and they really enjoy the farmers markets. They enjoy making sure that they have really good quality food. And we also have
50% of the demographics of that building are fish. And fish don't eat chicken cordon bleu on a stick.
Okay.
All right?
There were long lines at the food trucks many times, and I'm sure that there would be people who would go
I think
over.
those lines are going to shorten if you open up 20 other restaurants.
But
it's
do
not
some-
restaurants, Patrick. It's just
Listen,
not restaurants.
like
I know
I-
you want to make it into a flea market or to a food court, because that really serves your purpose of rivaling up
I
everybody.
want to make
but
it
that's
into
not
a library. I don't want to make it into a food
It's
court.
not going to happen.
We spent 4 to 6 months talking about student parking. Okay, here we're doing a major economic development plan. There's no business plan. There's no proof of funds. And it can possibly be reassigned to yet another entity that we have no control over. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't see any upside here. I mean, the only good news is that we're holding paper. I'm glad we're holding paper, because if the guy does go south, we'll be in first position. That's one thing I do agree with. I wish it was a 5-year note myself.
All right, is there anyone else from the council?
Sure.
All right, I got one more question.
Okay.
How's the Chamber of Commerce feel about this? Peg, is the Chamber of Commerce on board with this concept?
Patrick, this is not. This is our council discussion.
Well, maybe
then
she can get up.
We'll
Maybe
go
she
to the
can get up
public.
and speak. And,
We'll go. Then we'll go to the public. It's
Okay,
not
very
okay.
good.
If she wants to speak, she'll speak.
All right. So I guess everyone's trying to describe what Mr. Muta has in store for us. I'm curious if the buyer is here tonight.
I don't see him.
So the buyer's not here.
I can't.
So in a community...
Can you blame him?
No, I mean, I would be here. If
No,
I was
well,
putting out there, I would have a
let's be-
PowerPoint
One at a time.
presentation.
Let's be really honest. Social media this past week has been railing on the guy.
This is not a situation where we're all saying we have a building in town that we want to, let's figure it out together, right? There's 95% of the town that want, if you can't keep order, you're going to be removed. I'd like the policeman in the back to be aware of that, and I want our town sergeant to be alert to the people who can't control themselves. Especially on social media, when we were told that we'll show them what an angry mob looks like on Tuesday night.
I think the town sergeant left. I think he resigned with everybody else.
All right,
So go ahead.
Thanks. My point is that he could be here tonight to tell everybody what he has planned, to convince everybody about what a great idea it is, how it's not going to hurt their business. But he's not. He's not here. He wants to be part of this community. He's not here. So I'll do him a favor. Hopefully he's watching on TV. Let's take a pulse of the room tonight. How many people in this room are for this sale? All right. And how many people are against it? There you go.
So let's make our points. Why don't we make our points? And I know it's fun, guys, to play to the crowd, but I think it's also obvious what the crowd does not, the angry mob does not want the change, right? They don't want the change. So why on earth, it's not persuadable. People aren't speaking to each other anymore in the town. So why on earth are they going to, he's not going to persuade anybody.
All right.
So it's foolish to criticize it for not being here.
Then I guess your opinion doesn't count. That's what we're talking about, right?
No, that's not what I said, Jesse.
So what?
No, this is, go ahead. Just go do your thing. Go ahead.
So I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's the first day of school for families in town. It's difficult to come out on a night like this at 7:30 at night after you've had your first day. The kids are back home, but we still have a full chambers here, supporting something they believe in. It would be nice if the town council respected the wishes and your votes, rather than make up childish excuses like a silent majority that never seems to come and show up. So I know many of you have read the motion and the purchase and sales. You have a lot of the same questions that I have. So why don't we ask the questions right now? As you know, the P&S includes a reference of Town of Narragansett financing for the purchase of the Belmont building to PKV LLC, which is Carlos Mota. So my question to Mark Davis is, when is the last time that this town, has financed the purchase of real estate for a private business?
I can only speak during my tenure, and it hasn't happened during my tenure.
Okay. And can you give me an example of any town or city in Rhode Island doing this?
I can.
I can't give you specifics, but towns and cities issue tax abatements, grants. In fact, Hartford gave Carlos between $300,000 and $900,000 for his market in Hartford.
Right.
As a grant, not a loan.
A grant, right?
Yeah.
So, but not financing. I know about subsidies and incentives and that sort of thing, but financing?
Yeah, I can't speak for other towns.
You can't, okay.
We do finance sewer projects for town folks.
That's public, though.
Yeah.
Public,
Public
yeah.
sewer projects. So.
Are you aware of other states in the United States that actually have laws that forbid financing a private business?
No, I'm only concerned with Narragansett, and Narragansett does not have a law prohibiting this structure.
Okay. There's a reference in the motion summary submitted by Matt that says, what happens if the buyer defaults on the loan? So do we have a definition of what constitutes a default in this case?
No, the default will be set forth in the note, and there will also be defaults in the mortgage document. And the promissory note. So the promissory note and the mortgage have not been drafted. But if you read the language that's in the purchase and sales agreement, those documents need to be satisfactory to the town. Not mutually satisfactory, but satisfactory to the town. So we will be drafting those in a very broad fashion to obviously provide us with the opportunity to call defaults whenever appropriate.
So that would be the attorneys, the solicitors for, so I guess you and Carlos's legal counsel?
I'll be working on that document with, as well as the condo documents with Assistant Solicitor Steve Marcella, and we'll be negotiating that with Carlos's counsel.
And that would come back to the council for public vote?
You will have to approve you'll have to approve those documents.
Right.
And what would that be, an executive session or a public vote?
Those will probably be a public vote.
Okay. Hang on, Jesse, hang on. Mark, in a standard promissory note, isn't it if the applicant there is 3 months behind, then that's generally a default, correct? in most cases?
Generally, it's if they're past due 10 days on a payment, and then after, it's either 5 or 10 days.
Yeah.
Typically, in a commercial deal, 5 or 10 days, they miss a payment, and they're late. They'll request a notice. We'll probably give them 10 days written notice to cure if they don't cure. But the reality is, you're in the business, is if we start foreclosure proceedings because somebody's 15 days in arrears, it's probably not prudent to do so. So as a practice, somebody needs to get to that 60, 90 days in deficiencies before you start taking.
But during that foreclosure process, he could sell his interest in this property to another entity, correct?
If they assume the note.
Right.
But I think we could stop that by declaring a default at that point and accelerating. You wouldn't do it as a practical matter in a routine situation. But if you saw something occurring that you didn't like, you could certainly, if they're in technical default, you could accelerate.
Well, I think the promissory note should state that it cannot be reassigned, and it defaults to the town no matter what happens. Because,
well,
that's the whole idea of holding the note.
We, absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't allow him to transfer ownership of the property without paying our note in full.
Right.
We just wouldn't allow that.
Well, we shouldn't let him assign it whether he pays it or not,
Well, I mean, he's going to own it in fee simple, so I don't think you can violate his property rights and say that you can't.
Well, I think we
sell
should
it.
have a first right of refusal on that.
All right. So CAM fees. One of the main reasons, or one of the reasons that the majority of the council has been against moving the library to the Belmont building are the CAM fees. $38,000 a year is what was negotiated with Gilbane and the town for those common area maintenance fees. In section 2.4 of the PNS, we cover the CAM fees. It states that the parties agree to negotiate and document a maintenance and easement agreement before the expiration of the inspection period. So does that mean that by default, in this PNS, that the buyer would not be assuming the current CAM fees?
No, that's inaccurate. We make reference to the maintenance and easement agreement with Gilbane, and we make it clear, I think it's in the first or second paragraph of that section, that they take it subject to that document. We're referring to an additional easement agreement because this is going to be a condo now, and you're going to have condo units, owners 1 and 2, that are going to need access to utilities because they're all located in the market, HVACs that are located on the Belmont roof. So there needs to be an easement and maintenance agreement within the condominium.
So it's not related to the CAM fees, it's
No.
the easement. And
They're assuming,
Access.
they're going to be assuming their pro rata share of the CAM charges.
Okay, so I guess related to going back to the CAM fees, we did just receive a letter from legal counsel for GP Peer Realty, which is that the name of it? GP?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is GP Peer Retail, which is Gilbane Properties. It's a pretty striking letter, I'd say. I'm just going to read a portion of that because it does relate to the CAM fees. So it says, after negotiations in 2017 and 2018, my client agreed to sell the above referenced property to be used as a library at a discounted price, as well as a discounted maintenance agreement in view of the public benefit to be conferred by a new library. As a result of that sale, my client reserved an exclusive right to use and maintain parking spaces, and the parties entered into a maintenance and easement agreement which envisioned the construction of the library as noted by the positive outcome of the bond referendum and the purchase and sales agreement. You will note in the maintenance and easement agreement that my client agreed to cap the operating expenses for what was known in the agreement as the library parcel. And then they go on to say, the maintenance and easement agreement entered into between the town and my client will be null and void as a result of the representations made by the town as set forth in that agreement will no longer be true. Would you disagree with this statement?
I would say I would disagree would be an understatement. I negotiated that purchase and sales agreement with the seller's counsel, which is not the author of this document. In fact, I negotiated with Jack McGreen, and there was never any mention of restricting the building to a library. In fact, the seller is a multi-billion-dollar real estate company, and they know that if you want restrictions, you put them in the deed, you put them in the document, you put them in the maintenance and easement agreement. And Jack McGreen, if he was here, we could call him up and ask him if that was ever discussed. It was not discussed. So yes, I do disagree with it. I had been forwarded this about 30 minutes before we came, and I disagree with about everything in here. You know, the fact that these business uses are going to have a diminution in value. Well, Pure Liquors has been their tenant, so how that reduces their value is beyond me. Belmont Market was a full-blown market, and that was a tenant of the sellers. So this law firm, although quite talented, was not the party that negotiated on behalf of the seller, and is, in my opinion, not accurately reflecting the negotiations that I personally participated in.
Okay, thank you. So they do end the letter by saying, should the town choose to go forward with the sale and authorize these uses as proposed at the subject property, my client will pursue any and all relief necessary to protect his interests, including the value of its adjacent properties. So, you know, as we know, the original PNS does refer to the Belmont portion as the library unit, and any court case is obviously going to subpoena, you know, communications and emails and different discussions. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But it does seem like this may be a long process.
They're certainly entitled to go, you know, seek their legal remedies. I personally think they lack standing. So, like I said, I don't agree with anything that's in this letter, and we'd be happy to, you know, answer any legal complaints that are filed.
All right. The PNS includes requirements that Carlos Mota must deliver to the town. So one is a personal guarantee of what? That he's going to pay it back? Is that the guarantee?
Yes, if you note, Carlos Mota is not the purchaser, and LLC is the purchaser, so Carlos would be guaranteeing the obligations of the LLC.
Okay. And then we have a good standing certificate from the Rhode Island Secretary of State and the Rhode Island Division of Taxation. So are you aware of any business entities in Rhode Island that are owned by Mr. Mota?
No.
All right. And does he generate any business income in Rhode Island?
I don't know. At the time the PNS was fully negotiated, it was going to be Carlos Mota hadn't decided where he was going to form an entity or. But if you, I see where you're going with it. There is also another provision in that section that says that they will also provide any other documents reasonably requested. So if it turns out that the LLC is a Connecticut LLC or a Delaware LLC or a corporation, we will obviously require the relevant documentation that is typical for a deal of this size. If it's a new LLC, the good standing certificates actually don't mean a lot because they haven't been in business and they haven't had to file annual reports. So they had to be properly formed, but beyond that, there's not a lot of significance to those particular documents.
So with him conducting business in Connecticut for multiple decades, it would probably make sense to require a certificate of good standing from Connecticut, right?
Well, if the entity that we're doing business with is not in Connecticut, it really has no bearing.
So we would just ignore his previous history as a businessman?
Well, you can look at his previous history, which I've done, and I've spoken to Carlos, and He had an LLC, as far as I can tell, and as far as he's disclosed to me, an LLC in 2015 in Hartford that he put into Chapter 11. But what's notable about that is that was in 2015. In 2018, the governor of Hartford, the mayor of Hartford, and all local politicians of Hartford gave him money and celebrated the opening of his site as late as October of 2018. So, he explained why that LLC went into bankruptcy. Look at businesses set up LLCs to protect themselves individually. You would like to believe that Hartford wouldn't be giving them $300,000 to $800,000 or $900,000, given the fact that he filed bankruptcy in that city 3 years earlier. So, from what I can tell, he has an incredibly good reputation in the areas in which he's done business. Has he had a failure or two? Of course he has. But I think the overall materials that you read about Carlos are very positive.
Do you know the amount of debt that was included in that bankruptcy?
Just from what I read, and I don't really recall it.
All right. I think it's $2.5 million. So let's go a little bit deeper into the terms of the town financing. I just want to make sure I understand these terms and I'm calculating it correctly. So the buyer is going to bring $750,000 down at the purchase, and then that would leave a balance of $1,320,145 to be financed by the town over 3 years. Is that about right?
It's subject to some minor adjustments, but those numbers are accurate.
All right, so the APR, so that interest rate that we're referring to is annual, right? Annual percentage rate? Yep. First year would be 5%.
Correct.
And then the next 2 years would be 5.75%. So that would be year 2 and 3.
If it goes 3 years, that's correct.
Right. And then we talk about monthly payments, and we've talked about defaulting and how many months would constitute a default. So the monthly payments, they would be interest only.
That's correct.
All right. So are you able to tell me what that would make his monthly payment for the first year?
Well, the first year annually is $66,000, so it's going to be somewhere around, I don't know, $50,000.
So he's going to pay
$300.
$5,500 a month to open this up, 19,000 square feet in the pier?
That's what he's going to pay on the financing. Interest only would be $66,000 for the first year, which comes out to $5,500 a month, plus his CAM charges, plus property taxes, and then plus the build-out. Because he's not making any money during the years in one.
Yeah, so he has
Yeah.
It's interesting because I know a lot of businesses in the pier area that don't make any money in the winter at all because they keep their staff on and they stay open so they can serve the people all year, but they lose money in the winter because their rents are like $4,000 a month for like 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, I know that because my wife opened a business in the pier, so I know that as well as anyone.
Yeah. So this buyer would be spending $205,000 over 3 years in his monthly payments to be in this building.
I came up with about $218,000, but
okay, all right. So that plus the $750 down, we can add in some additional fees. We're around $1 million for 3 years. So if he wanted to sell that building for $2.5 million, $3 million, he could do that. We know that he could do that. So he could just never open a market and just sell the building. And he only has to pay $5,000 a month to do that.
He could.
That payment's interest only, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't knock down any principal.
He'd have to pay the principal.
Right, you have to pay the principal.
Correct.
It's interest only.
Yeah, I get it.
So he's taking that money and just throwing it into the tubes. The longer he waits to pay it, the more money he throws into the trash can. It's like rent.
Yeah.
He's throwing...
Unless he sells it.
Well, we have the control. You know what? We have the control. So We'll control the whole deal.
Mark just said he could sell it when we don't have control over it.
We have control of the building until he pays us the final payment.
Well, he could reassign it.
All right, so
That's not how the deal's structured.
like
Yeah, well,
as I stated earlier, there are businesses, multiple restaurants on Boone Street and in the direct peer area that spend $3,000 to $5,000 a month to run their business. This town council is spitting in their face tonight. Matt Mannix stated in his motion summary that the new business would not compete with local businesses. They would complement but not compete. Is there any stipulation in the agreement that no vendor in this building will be allowed to sell coffee so that they don't compete with Cool Beans?
I think the motion summaries, as you say, their opinions. That's what
Great.
he shared with us.
Thanks.
You're
Okay.
not voting on whether
I'm-
he's a competitor
excuse
or
me,
not,
Matt.
right? So that's...
No, we're
yeah.
voting on the
Right.
concept.
You're voting on the motion.
So no sandwiches, right?
So
No sandwiches here?
You're voting on the
Is
motion.
there a guarantee that there's no sandwiches?
You're voting on the motion.
Matt, excuse me.
So that's what you're voting on. I know this is a difficult concept. We've talked about this for 9 months.
You call it a concept. You call it a economic development. You know, the
I
last
do,
thing we
but that's
need
not-
is another restaurant.
Okay,
You know?
and that's the discussion point.
Great, thank you. We're
Pat-
having the discussion.
And
So
Patrick-
again, there's not going to be any pizza here. That's a guarantee, right? No pizza at this market. No burgers. We're not going to compete with Crazy Burger.
Again, Jesse, it's a motion and a summary. The summary is what is the opinion supporting it, right?
Yes, and
That
I'm
he was
giving
saying-
my opinion.
Right, but you're saying, are these like provisions? It's very misleading to the
I'm
public.
asking
what
if
you're
there's a
doing.
provision. You said it's not going to compete. I'm asking if there's a provision.
There's no non-competition provisions, no.
All right, thank you.
I will say, though, during the discussion we had, Carlos actually brought it up to us that he would not have anybody competing. He specifically mentioned Nana's Gelato. So he said he would not bring in anybody that would sell ice cream because he would not want to compete with Nana's.
All right, well, if he was here tonight, he can confirm
Did
that.
you get that in writing? Is this in writing somewhere? We got to get something in writing. We got to protect the local peer businesses. We got to protect the food trucks. I mean, if they're going to have 20 people, 25 businesses crammed in there, it's like putting a food truck in there.
He wants the food trucks too, Patrick.
Yeah?
I already mentioned
well,
that.
there we go. There's more parking. That's another thing with the
All right, so no Thai food because we have a Thai place right next door.
right next door.
No Mexican food because we have Calaveras right up the street, right? Has there been an economic impact study done?
Yeah.
It seems like kind of an obvious thing to do. Has there been a workshop done with local businesses to see what they would like? There
Was
hasn't.
there an economic impact statement done of the library moving from one corner of the pier to the other?
10 years. We were talking
Because the
about
library is
10
an
years.
economic development engine. That's
There
that's
are-
what we've been told repeatedly,
Matt,
that's going to revitalize
there
the pier.
are plenty
I just
of
want everyone to
studies done
understand
on
that.
the impact that libraries have on towns and cities. You can Google it. You'll get 10 results right there in front
I
of you.
do more deep research than Google.
Matt, we got one library. We don't have 20 other libraries in close proximity we're competing with.
So no economic impact study.
Peacedale, Willett Library, they're very close by.
No workshop with local businesses. We've had 3 town council members sitting in executive session playing Kingmaker in Narragansett. If this food court happens, it will absolutely take business away from our existing longtime local businesses. These are the local business owners that have spent years in the community and committed money, their time, and their lives to these businesses and to this town. I cannot believe a town council who is supposed to represent the people of this town would undercut our local business by giving an out-of-state competitor an unfair advantage. We've all watched over the years as residential property in town has been scooped up by out-of-state buyers and investors. It's a trend that hasn't slowed down, but one that has forced people who grew up here to buy their first homes elsewhere. As the town we all know and love seems to be slipping away and becoming a playground for New York and Connecticut money, the one thing that has remained local has been the small businesses. The residents who live here year-round appreciate the businesses owned by those who live here with us. But what we've seen with the changing residential demographics, we're about to see on the commercial side as well. By 3 council members who won't blink an eye as they sell out every single peer area business. It's over. The last chapter in the sell-off of our town to outside interests starts tonight. I'm going to say this to the town council majority and to Mr. Carlos Muta. Do not take this building from us. Those who voted in 2016 approved the funds for a new library. Finally, something for us, not for the tourists. For those of us who pay a higher mortgage than we can afford to live in the town. For those business owners who have struggled through the winters and keep their staff on and take a loss so that they can serve the community year-round. A library helps to keep this town a community. This project has been in the works and in the making for 10 years. Do not come to this town where you spend your vacations and steal this from us. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the council?
Go ahead.
All right, so we're going to go to the public. We'll start with Wynn. Oh.
Good evening. My name is Michael Kelly. I'm an attorney. Offices at 128 Dorrance Street. I represent GP Pier Retail LLC, who, as you know, sold the building to the town recently. My client was approached by the town to sell the former Belknap building to it for a library. It was induced to sell it to the town due to the fact it was to be a library serving town residents. And my client also was induced as a result of this building, the representations by the town, this building would be used for a library to provide the town with a discounted maintenance agreement. And the maintenance agreement that was granted to the town is about $20,000 less per year than it would have been for another party or what it was actually for the Belmont market. The town residents then approved the bond issue to finance this library. And now it appears that what we have is a bait and switch. The town wants to sell the property, allow an intense commercial use, and that is one of the reasons that I'm here tonight. We believe that this proposed sale would violate the intent of the sale by my client to the town, and certainly would violate the intent and the discount that was given to the town in the maintenance agreement. Now, the proposed use is obviously much more intense, traffic-oriented, and parking requirements are much higher than a library. And the sale of the Pier Liquors building with the second floor will compound the traffic and parking problem. It will create a very serious parking and circulation problem on the entire property, particularly with the parking. The parking on the site is allocated amongst businesses and owners. The Belmont market had a total of 30 parking spaces, and the proposed use, whether it's a restaurant or a food court, whatever you want to call it, is a much more intense use and as compared to a library use. According to your zoning code, a restaurant requires 1 parking space for every 3 seats. I would point out that the Trio restaurant, which is half the size of this proposed use, has a total of 72 parking spaces, more than double what this proposed use would have, and the proposed use is twice as big as the Trio restaurant. Pier Liquors only has 12 parking spaces without the use of the second floor, and I understand that the Pier Liquors is proposing to use the second floor for wine tasting events, etc., again increasing traffic and the parking problem. My client's very concerned that this parking and circulation problem is going to cause congestion. It's going to cause problems with the other businesses taking their parking, and it will diminish the value of GP's property on the site.
Thank you. We received your notice of objection, so we have that for the record.
I have just one more minute, if I may, Mr. President.
So we're over the 3 minutes, I think. So thank you. I think it's important. Thank you.
Well,
I think it's. Thank you.
One more point,
Thank you.
Mr. President. I think that the financing, you may want to take a look at your charter, because I think it might violate provisions of the charter in regard to the town indebtedness. You spoke about payments, and if this gentleman has a problem like he did in Connecticut and goes into a Chapter 11, be a long time before the town receives any payments, and the note itself could be restructured and extended for many, many years. The bottom line is that foreclosing on a piece of property, commercial property, is not that easy. There are many remedies available.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Last but not least,
We've received your objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want you to know my client intends to take whatever legal actions necessary to prevent this transaction. Thank you.
Thank you. There was no deed restriction in the deed that when the property was transferred to the town. So that is what would typically be done in such deals. A deed restriction would be there. That is absent from this particular agreement.
I think a judge is going to have to decide that one. Costing
there's
the
not
town money. You're worried about cost?
There's not a deed restriction, Patrick.
We're going to get into a lawsuit here.
There's no deed restriction.
Yeah, well,
there's no deed restriction. There can't be. There is no deed restriction. This is an important point, all right? This is a very important point. There is no deed restriction, and many of you have been told, many of you have been told back in January.
Sean, can you
This
please
is
address
important
that? Can you please
fact,
address-
because the facts are important, okay? The Friends of the Library sent out in January to get people to go to the candlelight walk. It was said by the Friends of the Library in the original purchase and sales agreement, Gilbane wanted the Belmont building to be used as a library. The town took that out of the agreement. That is a lie. It was never in any agreement. It was in never offer letter. There was no deed restriction. It is 100% false, and many of you have been parroting that fact, that lie, because that is not a factual statement. And I went back because I actually doubted the situation, and so I went back and looked it over. No, it's important to listen to the facts. Okay, this is very important, and that is a fact. Again, there was no deed restriction, no requirement this be a library in the agreement. Go ahead, Wayne.
Council President, one minute, please. 1 minute, please, before we get going tonight. First of all, thanks for coming out for my last council meeting. Really appreciate the support. Secondly, we've been through this drill several times. Please refrain from yelling out from your seats. Everyone's going to have their opportunity now and then during the open forum to speak your piece for 3 minutes at the podium. So please, be respectful and hold yourself up to the Narragansett standards. We can voice our opinions and do it well. Thank you.
He just said not to shout out.
Oh, come on. Go ahead.
Well,
No, at some point, there's got to be decorum.
Guy back there whispering. Give him a break.
No, what you need to calm down.
Listen,
okay?
I hope I'm the first one
You
to
need
take
to
away.
calm down.
Take me away.
You need to calm down.
excuse me. I have the floor. Are we working on my minute?
Go ahead,
Good.
Wayne.
First of all, I like the fact that you're dealing. Oh, Wenhames, 30 Wood Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island, 02882. Okay, to begin with, I like your statement that you want facts. In April of 2014, I stood here before you requesting finances for sewers on Wood Avenue and South Trail. Our town engineer, Jeff Cesarine, sent a letter to the council explaining that the town, under section 6-2-8 of the town charter, that the town could only borrow 1.5% of the town budget to finance projects like this. At that time, it was $795,000. We would have eaten up 91% of it. He recommended against it, and you voted against it. You're the only one left to remember that, Matthew. Fast forward to today, 1.5% of the budget is $900,000, is the maximum amount that you can loan without going to the town for a referendum. You're loaning this buyer far in excess of that allowed under section 6-2-8 of the charter. Now, this is the debt without referendum section from the Code of Ordinances. No bonded indebtedness may be incurred pledging the credit of the town in excess of 1.5% of the current adopted budget in any fiscal year unless submitted to the vote of qualified electors at either a general or special election and then approved by the majority of the votes cast in said election. If you're saying this is not a loan, then the IRS disagrees with you. Generally accepted accounting principles of GAAP, the most commonly used set of accounting rules in the United States. GAAP is an accrual-based system, which means that transactions are recorded as they occur. Revenue is recorded then when it is earned, and expenses are recorded when they are incurred. Cash does not need to exchange hand to require an entry. From Tony Guerrero, who was a national real estate expert, one tactic used by sellers to increase the available prospective buyer pool is to offer seller-carried financing. Real estate professionals say sellers offering to finance qualified buyers are basically just carrying those buyers' mortgages. In truth, seller financing is nothing more than the seller acting as a true mortgage lender. Now, I've talked to several people. I got 9 seconds left. Well, we'll just go right down here. If you go through with this deal tonight, then you're violating willfully violating our town charter. We will seek legal remedy against any one of you who votes or signs documents through the town and personally. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Gloria.
Carleen Town, 240 Wood Hill Road. It's hard to believe that so many of us are here tonight knowing full well how the vote is going to go. But I guess we feel so fervently about democracy that we must speak our minds. It is disgraceful how Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Leamer have ignored the wishes of the voters. And don't say, Mr. Mannix, as you have said so often, that you've noticed a shift in the residents' opinions about the location of the library and the town's purchase of the Belmont building. That is downright crap. Where is the silent majority that you always want to throw in our faces? All I see, except for a few naysayers, are supporters of the library's move to the Belmont building. How can you say, Mr. Mannix, as you did on August 19th summary that, and I quote, "The town should never have purchased this or any liquor store," when in fact we didn't buy a liquor store, but the town bought a building in which a liquor store had an existing lease. How flawed is that argument when you turn around 2 weeks later and put the town into a situation where it is in the loan business? The town has no right to loan
$1,320,145 of the taxpayers' money to a businessman who is not proven that his marketing plan will succeed. If he is so sure his plan will work, he should get a commercial bank loan so that the town's coffers can be made whole again. One final note. One final note. When I add what Pier Liquors paid for its subdivision, $735,000, to what Mr. Muda has negotiated with you behind closed doors, I come to a total of $2,805,145. Even Miss Lawler stated that the property was worth more than we paid for it. I don't think that waiting 3 more years to make a $5,145 profit on a $2.8 million taken out of the town reserves is a good investment, while Mr. Moda is only out of pocket $750,000 and interest on the remaining 1.3+ million. Funny how the town can have such a huge reserve that you don't question taking $2.8 million out of it, but the library can't have a reserve that's earmarked for pensions and the build-out. I think Patrick figured it cost us $9,000 a month in lost interest and maintenance fees for the building. So $5,145 doesn't even cover 1 month's expenses. Shameful. As a matter of fact, the council's entire reign, except for our knights in shining armor, Patrick and Jesse, has been shameful.
Thank you. Go ahead. Oh, no, Gloria. Then Al. Gloria.
Pointed over there. Thank you, sorry. Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road, Narragansett. Narragansett taxpayers, please listen very carefully to what has been said tonight, and I am going to highlight some of the things that you should be knowing. The purchase and sales deal with PKV LLC or Carlos Muta is not totally about the library project. This deal in motion tells us about the financial irresponsibility, lack of transparency, and unethical secret backroom deals of Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima. No professional commercial appraisal has been done on this property. No public sales advertisement, and a selling price that barely covers the purchase price, nor does not cover the cost of lost interest to the town's reserve fund. Mr. Mannix stated that the town needed to sell the liquor store in the upper room because the town should not be in the leasing business. Now, the 3 of you are putting the town in the mortgage business and giving Mr. Muta the deal of a lifetime. Sorry, all the Narragansett businesses, you have not been given any chance to have a mortgage and to kind of survive in our environment. A small down payment of $7,500, interest only for years 1 through 3, and only at the end of 3 years will Mr. Muta have to pay the balloon principal of $1,320,145. Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima, you are bleeding the town's finances. You are acting in a self-serving manner to fulfill Mr. Mannix's prediction that the purchase of the IGA Belmont building is a disaster. This deal with Mr. Muta is a financial disaster for our town. Plus his eatery plan, his concept, because he doesn't have a business plan, will negatively impact all the food merchants in the pier. The Picnic Basket, Nana's, Cool Bean, Dunkin' Donuts, Trio, all the other pier businesses. Narragansett taxpayers, you should know that these are your tax dollars that these three town council people are giving away. Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima, you are truly three bodies with no financial brains. You don't have any ethics in this deal. You will be hanging your head in shame for the rest of your lives in Narragansett. And your legacy, you can smirk.
That's very kind, Gloria.
can
Very
smirk.
kind.
You
It's
can
great to go
smirk.
to the personal attacks.
You can
Instead of
smirk.
just saying it's a bad deal, you
Don't-
could
don't
point out
interrupt
your
me.
time's up anyway.
No,
you can point out
took it away.
I didn't take your time
You
away.
took it away.
Please sit down, Gloria.
No.
Your divisiveness is a
legacy-
treat.
Your
Please sit down.
legacy
Please
is the destructive
Please sit
behavior.
down.
You took my
Please
time,
sit down.
Matt.
Please
You do
sit
that all the
down.
time.
Please sit down. Al.
Okay, my name is Dr. Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I wrote a paper because of its length. I'm going to have Miss Mary Kelly Nadeau and Naomi McDonald also co-read part of the paper. Thank you. Narragansett Town Councilors Mannix, Lawler, and Lima have acted against the will of the majority who voted yes in 2016 for a new state-of-the-art library in Narragansett, Rhode Island. In an all-out fight to prevent a modern state-of-the-art library at the recently purchased building, they are doing what is not only detrimental for the town's residents, but the latest deal will most likely devastate local businesses. First, we had a background deal to sell space to the Pear Liquor Store through an executive session. Everyone who knows about real estate recognizes selling a building without a current commercial real estate assessment via comparative market analysis and selling a property without advertising it on the open market are bad ideas. Now Mr. Mannix wants to sell the remainder of the property purchased for our new library to a company that wants to use the structure to create a food court and a retail marketplace. The proposed notes for today's agenda state that the businesses that we promoted will dovetail with the activities and services of other business establishments in the pier. How does one create a food court in marketplace that will not compete with many of the local restaurants and businesses? If one opts to eat at a food court, he or she will not be taking his or her business away. He or she will be taking her business away from the local restaurants or cafes. Merchants that sell clothing, souvenirs, art, and other memorabilia at the pier will suffer since people may opt to make the purchases at the retail marketplace. We have many fine restaurants and businesses in the pier. Restaurants such as Crazy Burger, Trios, the Picnic Basket, and Cool Beans, where our town solicitor once owned, and food trucks, all may find it more difficult to remain profitable with the new competition in town. For some businesses, it's so difficult to make profit in the winter, they just close their doors entirely. Nationally recognized Iggy's Doughboy and Chowder House to Monahan's Clam Shack are examples of restaurants that shutter their doors in the winter. Also, if less people go to our area establishments in the summer, many may be driven into bankruptcy. It does appear this deal will be a no-win situation. If the food court and retail marketplace are successful, it will hurt our local restaurants and retail stores, and if it fails, taxpayers may possibly be on the hook to bail it out. Let's not forget, a state-of-the-art library in large part will be funded by others, not our taxpayers. We would have received bond money by approved voters. We would have received money through OLIS. We would have had at least $1 million through the $500,000 matching grant from the Murray Charitable Trust, and an additional $500,000 from the anticipated donations from donors. Instead, the president of the Narragansett Town Council is proposing to fund an out-of-state business with no track record of success, in doing so without the approval of the Narragansett residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Nadeau, 10 2nd Street, Narragansett. A state-of-the-art library provides multiple benefits, from providing educational resources to providing support services for individuals throughout their entire lives. Ignorance is costly, as it is evident to those who cannot obtain gainful employment. Individuals with special needs or those who are handicapped benefit greatly from a modern library. Individuals receive the biggest bang for the buck from a library are those who cannot afford to buy a computer or access the internet, or those who cannot purchase online databases for research, those who cannot buy their own books for study or enjoyment, and those who cannot afford to go to the movies or buy audiobooks. In addition, many people who do not have a social network are seeing as a safe haven to gather, socialize, and get support. Clearly, we can benefit from the state library. Those in need will benefit the most. Thus, by opting for an expansion of a liquor store and adding a proposed food court and retail marketplace, the town council members who are supporting this plan will not only be taking away needed resources from those most in need to better their lives, but we will now be making it more likely for people to increase liquor consumption in a town that is already flooded with college kids in an off-season. We will also have a food court and retail marketplace that can harm our local restaurants and businesses. Like Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life, where Mr. Potter had complete disregard to the harm his actions caused the local hardworking citizens of Bedford Falls, it appears that 3 Narragansett council members, Mannix, Lawler, and Lima, act in total disregard for the pleas of its residents. As a result of the actions of town council members, Mannix, Lawler, and Lima, it makes people think that they are serving their own self-served interests and political agenda. Empathetic pleas and testimony from elementary school-age children to high school students, library personnel, local residents, concerned mothers and fathers, and people from all walks of life, not including limited teachers, teachers' aides, and all kinds of professionals, doctors, lawyers, professionals, go on deaf ears. In addition, the failure to acknowledge the $500,000 matching gift from the Murray Charitable Trust makes people wonder how insensitive the decision on making the town council members have been to the residents of Narragansett. Mr. Potter was only concerned about making money regardless of the hurt he caused his citizens. George Bailey almost committed suicide due to the actions of Mr. Potter. I implore the town council and the supporters of the Narragansett Town Council to rethink and back away from this deal, unless they want to forever remember it as having the image of Narragansett's very own Mr. Potter. Let us hope that none of the restaurants or the business will face financial ruin as a result of these town council actions. So we were trying to get the pier back, and I hope we continue to do that.
Naomi McDonald, 30 Kingstown Road. While the deal may be legal and the town council may have the authority to approve this deal, they do not have the will of the people behind it. Did anyone vote to lend their tax dollars to an out-of-state developer? No. In Rhode Island, we are all aware of many dubious politically approved deals that cost the taxpayers of Rhode Island millions of dollars. The Kurt Schilling 38 Studios, the UHIP fiasco, the Cooler Warmer campaign deal are examples of ridiculous and very costly deals made without the consent of Rhode Island voters, but at the hands of the politicians without regards to the consequences of their actions to the state's residents. While no one broke the law as a result of these reckless actions of political officials, it has all cost us higher taxes. What is legal may not be considered morally right if such actions cause harm to an individual or individuals. At one time in the United States, slavery was legal, as well as Jim Crow laws, but such laws were morally wrong. If this deal goes through and makes one man a millionaire when he flips the building eventually and puts many local businesses out of business, should we be proud and supportive of this deal? I will let the listener decide and answer that question. One last consideration for residents and business owners to ponder. Was any business person from Narragansett or Rhode Island offered such a generous, enticing offer to open a business in Narragansett? The businessman for this deal is a Connecticut developer, Carlos Muta. Has this businessman been vetted? What is Mr. Muta's track record for opening up successful businesses? If he is such a successful businessman and his business is not at risk of failing, then why is he asking the town of Narragansett to help him finance his business? All I can do is shake my head in disbelief with regards to the actions of Councilors Mannix and his two assured follow our leaders voters in the town council. Ironically, Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lola, and Mr. Lima have argued the people who voted for the Narragansett Library bond referendum did not know what they were voting for when they approved the bond for the state-of-the-art library. As I write this, I truly believe the majority of Narragansett residents who voted for Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima did not know what they were voting for, as who would vote for council members who are acting in ways to hurt both the residents and local businesses in our beautiful town. And this is all written by Dr. Alba.
Thank you.
Jonah Weissnessover, 5 Judith Ave. Hi, people of Narragansett. Why are we making a food court for tourists instead of a library for the people? Well, the answer would be because of 3 town council members who are insisting we give the Belmont building a very fitting piece of real estate for a library to a tycoon food court. Do we not already have enough places to eat already? Well, the answer is yes, but we only have 1 library, and that is why the people of Narragansett, from all political opinions, backstories, and ages, have came together as one group to support the library and help the town of Narragansett when the majority of the council has failed to do so. We are already disappointed in 3 members of the council, and we will even be more disappointed in the if the library does not get their rightful piece of real estate.
Thank you.
Mary Ann Grinchenko, 221 Foddering Farm Road, Narragansett. I'm presenting a chart.
Terry, don't we have a provision that charts cannot go up there without being approved by the town manager?
I was just going to ask. I was just going to ask.
Yeah, we
if
do.
that-
Thank you,
yes,
Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I was just going to ask if I could present this chart.
There's
It's from
precedent.
the Narragansett
It's on the government, it's on the town website.
Yes, it's
It's our governmental organization. I don't think the camera can see it anyway.
I just want to, if I can present that. It's from the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report from the town of Narragansett. May I display that, please?
Yeah, you can describe it, but I don't know where we're going with this, but go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Government 101.
Well,
Thank you. Okay, as you can see in the town organizational chart, the town council reports to the Narragansett residents. The will of the majority of the voters need to be the governing principle. But this is not what's happening with the present town council, who are functioning according to their own will and not the will of the residents. The town council members, Matt Mannix, Jill Lawler, and Rick Lima, irresponsibility is manifested in this seal as they sell the space purchased for a new state-of-the-art library. The financing of the building is not in the best interest of our town. The 3 town council members that I mentioned before should consider the majority vote a mandate to carry out the will of the people. We, the residents of Narragansett, feel our democratic rights are being violated by this seal and the town financing of our future library. Thank you.
thank you.
Barbara Rampo, 10 Marsh Lane, Narragansett. I just have a few comments that I'd like to make. First, why isn't this buyer getting banking financing? Isn't that the way it's usually done?
If you have,
Like-
it's a comment, so you give us the comment and you criticize. That's
not-
how it works. It's not a question and answer session.
I'm not criticizing. I'm
No,
just
you
throwing
make
that out.
comment, criticism, cheerlead, whatever you want to do, but it's not a question and answer session.
Please don't interrupt me. All right.
Well, I'm clarifying for you
Two, what is it?
Tamar.
What is in it for the town of Narragansett to do this financing? And why wasn't this put out to bid? Why wasn't this property, number one, evaluated, assessed, and then put out for other people who might have interest in it? That's a really important question here. And all the smoke and mirrors that we've had tonight do not divert people from what is going on. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on.
in the discussion that you had with the Narragansett Times, Mr. Mannix, you said that the thing was to have the town bringing in revenue, and that a library wasn't going to bring in any revenue. Well, perhaps it isn't, but there's more important things than money, number one. Number two, I could understand that statement a lot better if this deal you were making with this man was more substantive, was going to show us that we were going to make money, but we're not. I don't understand why you are so bent on selling this property to this man. Is it just to get back at the library? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to think, because why is the town desperate to get rid of this property? That's like, you know, I don't expect you to answer me. I'm throwing these questions out so the rest of the townspeople can think that same thing. And in closing, I do have one other thing to say. And this question is directed at you two gentlemen, I'm sorry, Mr. Murray and Mr. Plough. I want to thank you very much for your support and all your hard work that you've done. And Mr. Mannix, I want to say that I take great offense at the fact that in the paper you called the people here a mob. I take great offense at that. No one here is screaming and yelling. People are expressing their opinion, maybe exuberantly, but it's not a mob. And I take great offense that you would denigrate my right as a citizen in Narragansett and a citizen of the United States to be able to speak my mind. Thank you.
Dave Rudy, 125 Caswell. I don't think anything that's said here tonight is going to change any votes up there. I'd just like to understand how a town council president with limited financial and real estate experience could put the town in a deal like this. And how Mr. Lima, with his extensive business experience, could understand that $5,000 a month to hold the property and put it up for sale and make tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit just doesn't equate. And the idea that the Pure Liquors is so much better off owning their property because some evil landlord is going to put them out of business. If that's the case, if that's such brilliant information, Mr. Lima ought to be on a plane to the CEOs of Walmart, Stop and Shop, and Home Depot and explain why the error of their business model is so detrimental to their stockholders. Ms. Lawler, I just don't understand how Ms. Lawler is going to approach a potential seller and tell them that the property that they are going to list is actually going to go for less than the appraised value by the town assessor. Nothing has gone for less than the assessed value in this town in the past 2 years or more. Explain that one to a potential buyer, their seller, that they have to list their property below the assessed value. And explain that because of that, we're going to have to find a buyer who can't get traditional financing, so I want you to loan that person the money to buy your house, and don't worry, you'll get $5,000 a month until it's paid off. And don't worry, if they default, you can get it back. Of course, if it's bought under a LLC, it can be a commercial default, a commercial bankruptcy, which is going to take months, if not years, to resolve. This deal makes no sense, And I cannot understand how someone who purports themselves to be a professional realtor and is going to tell the seller, we don't have to market this property, we don't have to advertise it, a buyer will appear out of the woodwork from another state, and don't worry, it'll go for the same value the assessor gave it, less than you bought it for. I just don't understand how that works.
She's going to be able to say that it was an erroneous purchase and that $400,000 a year over the next 20 years is what was in our budget in 2018 for this property. And she's probably going to be able, and she'll probably be able to say that to a lot of prospective people, fixing the mistake.
Okay, the
Go
real
ahead.
cost,
Go ahead.
over 20 years for the homeowner is 8 cents per thousand. For a $400,000 house, it's going to cost that homeowner. And this was the worst case scenario. This was all vetted.
$400,000 a year, Patrick, it was in the 2018
8 cents
budget.
per thousand. It's $32 a year
Just
per year for 20 years for a $400,000 homeowner.
Just
And
go
that
back to
was
your
at all
budget work
in,
session notes from
and that was
2018.
projected less.
Not complicated.
We even had-
$400,000 a year for 20 years.
Well,
Matt, are you
Who's
saying
next?
right
Who's
now
next?
it's not 8 cents per thousand?
Who's next? Go ahead.
It is.
Good.
8 cents.
Go ahead.
8 cents.
Before I begin, Nancy LaPasta Frazier, West Bay Drive, Narragansett. Before I begin my statement, I would love some clarification. Earlier tonight, Mrs. Lawler voted against advertising in a vacation guide because she didn't want more people in Narragansett. But she wants this marketplace to attract more people. I guess consistency is not that important.
Direct your comment.
Well-
Direct your comments toward me.
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
you know,
I am.
but you can applaud all you want. Keep applauding. Applaud the personal attacks. That's why you're an angry mob. You act like one. That's why you get called
I
it.
wasn't attacking. I
Keep
was
clapping.
asking for
Go ahead.
clarification.
Well, don't personally attack somebody. Just say why it's
How
a
is
bad
that
deal.
How is that
Just
an
say
attack?
why it's a bad
No,
deal.
I don't want to waste
okay.
my time.
Just say,
I
right.
guess it's official.
Right.
Narragansett
We'll
is
start
now
you
a-
over.
Thank you.
Yep.
I guess it's official. Narragansett is now an I know a guy or a gal town. Imagine an out-of-state developer already behind on a similar project in Connecticut who has difficulty finding private financing, rolls into town, and secures a 3-year interest-only loan. My God, he saw the three of you coming from a mile away. But let's look at this situation a bit closer. Just 2 weeks ago, 3 of you self-righteously claimed that the town had no business being a landlord. And yet tonight, you are making the town a private bank for someone without a Rhode Island track record. You are willing to bankroll his project, thus favoring an out-of-town developer over the mom and pop businesses that currently exist and struggle here in Narragansett. Not only are you turning your backs on them, but you're actively encouraging competition in an already limited year-round market. In the past, you've noted that Narragansett had a $2.8 million hole in the town reserves due to the purchase of the Belmont building. But now, through this misguided transaction, you're guaranteeing that Narragansett will continue to have a $1.3 million hole for the next 3 years. Shouldn't that be a cause of concern for you? Or are you just passing the buck, no pun intended, to the next town council to worry about? Mr. Muda, or the LLC, is under no obligation to develop the Belmont building. Using our money, he can just sit and wait, get an up-to-date appraisal, market it professionally, make a killing, and laugh all the way to the bank about the 3 council people so intent on killing a library that they forgot their fiduciary responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can the person with the flashlight that's shining right at us, your light's on? Thank you, because you're getting right into our eyes. Thank you.
Come forward, please.
My name's Casey Montanari, 21 Checkerberry Trail, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I want to start by saying I absolutely hate public speaking, so just kind of bear with me. I agree with a lot of what's been said here tonight, and I don't want to go back over a lot of that, but just touch up on some things that are important to me. I've been a supporter of the library, kind of on the sidelines. I'm not here tonight as a supporter of the library. I'm here as a Narragansett resident and also a small business owner in the pier. My issues with this right now is that there was not the appraisal done, which is what a lot of people have mentioned. And given what Trio just sold for, I feel like you all have a fiduciary duty and obligation to this town to get an appraisal and to list it publicly. And that needs to get done so that we can get the best possible return of our investment. In terms of business, I'm here, before I opened my restaurant, I was at another restaurant for over 10 years, right down here in the pier. I know what the struggle is. We struggle for over 40 weeks a year just to be able to make ends meet, and I'm not alone in that. Emily is here, and she currently is running the place I ran before, and she can tell you how difficult it is. I'm not one that is afraid of competition at all. I think the more small businesses in an area, the better. I was upset to see Marco's go and would love to see another small restaurant in there. But the bigger things, a food court, I don't think is best for the town. And when you look around at all the empty restaurants and buildings in the pier and all over Narragansett, I think you can kind of see where I'm coming from with that. Let's see. That's kind of it for that, because like I said, I think a lot of people touched on the other things. One thing that I wanted to point out to you guys is the bankruptcy of this guy in Connecticut. I think that that's really significant, and you should take a little bit more time into looking at that. And I believe it's Mr. Davis, right? You pointed out that the state of Connecticut, where he does business, gave him $400,000 in grants and money. And I just wanted to know if you guys were aware of a lot of the court documents that have been filed against him. October 18th, 2017, a collection agency filed a lien in the court in Connecticut for over $400,000, a little bit over $400,000. On September 21st, the Hartford Business Journal, I believe it was, ran an article about how the state of Connecticut gave him $400,000. 2 weeks later, the lien was discharged. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't seem to add up here, and I think that rather than rush to do this, maybe we should get an appraisal, maybe we should list it publicly, and maybe we should get what's best for the town of Narragansett. So thank you for my...
Thank you.
I got like 10 more seconds, right? Can I just... And all of you
Thank
guys,
you.
Your legacy is going to be fighting for what you believed in, and you're all doing a great job. And I really think that you three should consider what your legacy to this town is.
Thank you. Come on.
Hi, Emily Burns, 144 Boone Street in Narragansett. I'm the manager at Crazy Burger on Boone Street. And I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to everybody here tonight that clearly supports our business year-round, including Jesse and Patrick. Thank you. I appreciate the focus on local business. I just wanted to kind of point out, I came here tonight just to kind of listen to everything. I had no intention of speaking, but it's just crazy to me what I'm hearing. And I have to say that, Crazy Burger is not only a popular restaurant in Narragansett, we have a reputation nationwide, and we struggle for 9 months out of the year to pay our employees. I sometimes don't get paid every week on time. I've been there for almost 15 years, and I love the place. We also struggle in the last couple years to have enough employees to staff our restaurant. So I'm curious who's going to work at this place that we're supposedly going to be opening in the pier with 20 kitchens, because we're one of the most popular restaurants and people like to work at Crazy Burger, and I don't have enough staff. So if I'm in that position, I can only imagine what some of the newer businesses that are trying to make us a go in Narragansett. I grew up in Wickford. I went to URI. I graduated from URI. I worked at Crazy Burger while I went to URI, and now I live in Wakefield. And it's just such a shame to see what's going on here, and that the town of Narragansett is not being listened to, and there's no support for the people that really live here and really, really matter. So that's all I have, and thank you again to everybody.
Thank you.
Hi.
Welcome.
Melissa Crawford, 64 Lambert Street. I'm agreeing with everybody here tonight. I'm totally, all the financial stuff is really disappointing, but on top of it, it seems like this is a fantasy situation, not conceptual even, because even conceptual makes it seem possible. But this is a fantasy situation. Do you guys live in this seasonal community that I live in? Because like 2 months out of the year, it's banging, it's Narragansett party, and then it's asleep. Places are shut down at 9:30 at night, dead. The only way that this place is going to survive for those 9 months is with a liquor license or the BYOB, and the URI kids that flock to the farmer's market are going to be drinking there the whole time. That's what this place is going to be. It's going to be a party scene if it's to survive. Isn't that how Narragansett survives the winter? I'm born and raised. I know the way Narragansett works. We can fantasize all we want about how amazing it's going to be in November, December, January, February, March, April even. It's dead here. So why are we trying to put some Chelsea, New York City marketplace in our sleepy little town? We can't even get our local businesses to thrive in the town. Why are we competing with the peer marketplace? Do they really want that kind of, I mean, look at our farmers markets, our food trucks. They've taken years to establish themselves. And now we're gonna put something in there, 20 kitchens. It's really a fantasy. We need to dial it down and we need to get serious about what can actually go there. If not a library, what can really go there? It's not this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you speak, just interject one thing, just one clarification. What I said was that this will be a draw for the shoulder seasons we have in town, where we don't have the tourists here. We need to bring people here so they can go to your establishments. So that's a clarification. That's what I said, just for the record.
Good.
Go ahead.
Hi, Jamie Day, 69 Angel Road. I'm not a public speaker. I've actually never been to a town council meeting, but I've been paying attention to what's been going on, and I felt really compelled to be here tonight and to speak. So I'm speaking to oppose acting on the Belmont IGA proposed library property so quickly. I wish to remind you that there was a referendum, and the outcome was plain. It now seems the council is contemplating acting without sufficient time for the public to express themselves, which is what I wrote down because I get nervous when I speak, but I'm hearing the public express themselves. So I therefore suggest that this matter be tabled until dedicated separate hearings can be held for the voters to express themselves so that before the council takes any action. After all, what's the hurry, right? So this building, and I've been in this town, I've raised my kids here on the beach. I love this town. It's been sad to see that building be empty for so many years. And there was now I'm not going off my notes here, but there was an excitement, like, oh, cool, the library. I actually had to spend the last week in the library because my computer was down, and I was reminded, because my kids are older now, what a beautiful community is. I felt welcome. Everyone, was really helpful, showing me where things were. And what I see here tonight is not only a divided town, but a divided panel. And it's, we really, in today's day and age, where things are so divided out in the world, in our small town, we want people to be on board with this. It would have been great if the fella, Carlos, and his LLC, if he was here tonight to say, hey, this is what I got. I'm so excited about this. I think you guys will be excited about it too. Let me tell you about it. So you can be on board so that we could, but this has been happening. This isn't the first meeting this has come up at. And it's the same divide. You know, it's like, you don't want it, and you do, and some don't. And it's, I just want the expression of the referendum to be carried out, and I don't think it's too much to ask. Why not, you know, this is a prime piece of real estate, and if it were put, you know, out to bid, I would think people would be excited to come in here, especially since this has been getting all this press. Someone who is willing to show up and to stand here and to say, hey, I support this town, and I'm part of this town, and I want everyone to come together. And all the other issues that were on the thing tonight, you guys went through them like boom, 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 yes, yes, yes. And this one is such a big divide. There's just more of an opportunity to take the time and do the right thing for our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Greco, Wheatfield Cove Road in Harbor Island. Moved here about 4 years ago. I grew up. Oh, sorry. Oh, hello. Is it on? Grew up north. Moved here about 4 years ago after 20 years in New York and New York City. And I can say Chelsea Market was a bit of a bust financially. It's kind of chugging along, not great. That said, I've been following this, kind of curious where it's going. It sounds to me like we're not getting our library, which is a bummer. But I think, you know, the reason why I moved here with my family, it's a great small community. I did not want to be up north. No. I loved the school system. I loved that it was, the town did its own thing. We weren't regionalized. And the situation with the library is making me concerned that perhaps this is the first step in regionalization of the town and being absorbed by SK. And I don't want that for my kid. I don't want that for the town. I don't want that for my family. So that is my concern. I'm worried that this is part of a much bigger issue that we're not seeing because of the concerns about the fact that we don't have the library. That's it.
Thank you.
They took this down off the Pierce School today, and they put up an L. Pierce School, they took it down, and they put up an L, library, school. Because the Pierce School is perfect for the library. This building is not. And you guys don't get it to your head, but it's not a good deal. It's not a good building for a library. It's terrible.
What's your name and address, sir?
I don't want to tell anybody. My name's Ricky Lima. I'm his twin. I live on Mumford Hill. No, my name's Robert Combs. I live on Robinson Street. But anyway, this is ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. I'm a native, and I grew up in town, and this is part of the town. It doesn't need to be, every kid that goes into 4th grade in Narragansett schools gets a computer to use. Every kid that goes into 5th grade gets to take one home. That library is great for kids. That's all. No, old people don't, they get their movies, they go there, they have coffee. No one reads books like that anymore. They got computers.
Excuse me, let him finish.
Why would I read a book?
Sir, please address me. Just, sir, please address me.
Right? Why would I read a book when I got a TV? Anyway, an interest-only loan, how can you go wrong with an interest-only loan? They're paying interest only. You get the building back. Someone's paying the freight on it for 3 years, or you get the building back. Why beat this guy Carlos into the ground? You don't even know him. Nobody even knows him. I can do discovery on just about everyone in here and find out some dirt about you. So I don't know why you got. I think he's going to open up a tattoo parlor.
Sir.
I think he's going to open a tattoo parlor. And there's a place in Newport that's getting shut down. It's called the Antiques Armory on Thames Street. They have antiques, consignment, jewelry. They're looking for a place. They would be perfect down there. It's got the square footage. They're interested. It's perfect. The library it's like a no-brainer down there. It's awful. The Pierce School is perfect. Handicap bathrooms, kids' bathrooms, access. The kids go to South Pier Road. You know how many kids
Don't yell out, please. No,
Excuse me, don't yell from the audience, please.
Narragansett High School last year, 100. 100 kids. The school is half empty. The other school's half empty, and that one's half empty. What are we doing with 3 schools that are half empty? You move them right over to South Pier Road. It's a no-brainer. They already took the N down and put up an L.
Thank you, sir. Next. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Yes, sir.
Chris Schaefer, 33 Old Pine Road. I have a question here. Only a rhetorical question. So if the town is in the business of providing loans, there's a lot of residents that... There are plenty of residents would be more than happy to have some residential loans to be successful here. So why don't the town get into that business? Then the profits stay and the money stays in the town, the profits stay in the town. Why don't we just go all out? It sounds like a perfect plan. Then we help the community, we help the town citizens, everyone wins. Anyways, that's not actually the reason I came up here. I actually found this really interesting article this past week. Speaking of mobs, decorum, difficult concepts. In their 1858 debates, Lincoln pressed Douglas to clarify what kind of America he really wanted. One that had slaves or one that did not. Douglas claimed only to stand against mob rule. But why, Lincoln asked. Why was he choosing to die on the South's hill? Why would applying his principle, the mandate to protect the South from interference by extremist hordes, end up curtailing freedom of millions of black Americans? Or was it possible, Lincoln suggested, that Douglas secretly preferred a slave society to a free one? There's a lot of parallels from discussions that were taking place tonight with this. Ultimately, what this is about is being on the right side of right and wrong. And everyone knows which side is right and which side is wrong. In the long arc of history, the library will succeed. Maybe not tonight, but by the time my kids are old enough to be part of the society, be taxpayers, they will have a library they will be proud of, that they currently go to, that they currently rent books. I guess they don't rent books, they're free there. But books, lots of books. They read lots. Google won't replace the library. So with what Lincoln said and what Lincoln challenged Douglas, I ask everyone to challenge themselves of what is right and wrong. And those who really challenge themselves know the difference. Thank you.
Lily Weiss-Nessover, 5 Judith Ave. I first would like to comment on the comment that the schools are half empty. I had my first day of high school today, and I could not get in by anyone in the hallway because it was completely filled. So that is just an appalling statement to me. Since many students couldn't make it tonight because of school and the fact that the meeting goes so late, I've taken some responses from students in my grade and the grade above about why they want a library in their town, and so I will be representing them. So, quote, I want it in a bigger building because we can have a larger environment for the community and more clubs could be held at the library, like social bonding and book clubs and stuff like that. It would be an overall achievement for the community because more people could get interested into reading and come into this building to make new friends or read. End quote. Quote, libraries are used by homeless or jobless people to find and apply to jobs, to work on their resume, or to seek out resources to help them escape poverty, end quote. Quote, libraries are used by students who are unable to study at home due to having loud or bad environments. Without a proper building, students and the like will be forced into the same crowded conditions they're trying to escape, end quote. Quote, free knowledge is important in just society. More space is more knowledge, is more access to the public. Libraries are an important public place, end quote. Quote, because they can fit more books and more resources, which is especially important for students and parents alike, end quote. More local people can be educated. More space means more books. More books means more educational growth, and the other one is much too small, end quote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elaine Stannard. I live at 29 South Pier Road, and I'm a moderator at the elections. In 2016, when the bond passed, everybody said hooray. In 2018, when you were negotiating very hard to buy the Belmont Market for the library, everybody said hooray. A sign briefly went up on the front of the market, home of the new Narragansett Library, and we all thought it was a done deal. I don't know what happened, but you know, the next election, when a bond issue comes up, I'm going to say, well, maybe it can happen. I don't know if it can happen. And I think that's a real mark on democracy. Thank you.
It's actually true with every bond item. It's an authorization to borrow, not a mandate to spend. So all the bond items, they're not mandates to spend. Yes.
Hello, my name is Paula Giles, 55 Lake Road. I want to thank everybody here tonight who has so eloquently expressed their concerns about this almost done deal. I grew up in Rhode Island and spent a lot of my summers at Narragansett Beach. So I have a long history of loving this area, and I'm now living here full-time in Narragansett. So tonight I came to this meeting expecting to hear all the arguments and hoping maybe some of your minds would be open to the comments. But two things really struck me as I listened. One is, why would the town of Narragansett use our tax money to give a big developer a sweetheart loan? And number two, I was also struck by the fact that this is an LLC. Now, I'm not a tax person, but an LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. And I wondered why a big developer would want to set himself up with that kind of a tax structure if he's, you know, a big shot coming from Hartford. An LLC is usually something that is set up by, you know, businesses, small businesses that are just starting up. And there's a big advantage to having an LLC because it means that if you go down the tubes, you are not personally liable for any of those losses. So it also struck me that this $5,000 a month payment this guy's going to make for 3 years is no doubt going to be a tax deduction for him as a loss on his business. And which kept making me ask even further, why would three of you want to get in business with this guy using our tax money when the community so much wants a library because it is for the community? And then as I heard more descriptions about what he was going to do, this was going to be a European-style cafe selling fresh produce and fresh fish. And, you know, the local business owners have a right to be worried that that's going to hurt their business. But I have another theory. My theory is that this guy is going to come into this town knowing full well he can't compete with the other restaurants. He's going to come in looking for a big tax break, and he's going to use the three of you who have supported him so far to get what he wants, which is to get in, not open anything, sell it, and get out. And by the way, the little bit I know about an LLC also means that, once an LLC goes down the tubes, the only money that you can recoup if you're one of the creditors is whatever's left.
Thank you.
So I'd just like to know a guarantee from all three of you that you don't have a financial interest or your friends or your relatives in this deal because it stinks to high heaven.
Thank you.
Margaret Rogers, 68 Earls Court. In your motion tonight, Matthew, which is pure rubbish, you would have us believe that you want a flea market to complement the other small businesses. My fellow residents, you're being gaslighted again. So a few questions for Matthew tonight, which he won't answer. These are just questions we all have. You say the flea market will not compete with other businesses, so I'd like to know how you arrived at that conclusion. Did you visit and speak with Mark Zimmer, the owner of the Picnic Basket, or drop by the owner of Cool Beans? I'll take that as a no. How many other small businesses did you visit? I heard Jill Lawler state tonight that she received an assurance from some guy no one knows that he won't put a gelato shop in the food court. Did she speak with the owner of Nana's? I'll take that as a no. So Jill Lawler seems more concerned over the last 10 months about people stating their name and address when they come up here than she is about forking over millions to an out-of-state developer. And tragically, with all due respect, our town solicitor was engaging in a little bit of gaslighting of his own tonight. So who is the buyer, Carlos Muta? We know he's declared bankruptcy, is behind schedule in his Parkville project, and declared major debt, millions of dollars of debt in his Chapter 11 filing. So the town solicitor tonight would have us believe that he's a reputable businessman in the state of Connecticut. What a joke. The reason he's being propped up with a $3.5 million bond from the state of Connecticut is because it's an attempt by the state of Connecticut to help revitalize a neighborhood which has a crime rate 170% higher than the national average, and which was actually recently targeted in 2017 by the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force and the Hartford Police's NARC division because of the massive amount of gang violence and drug trafficking in the Parkville section of East Hartford. So that's why Governor Malloy decided to throw some cash his way to see if he could do something for East Hartford, Connecticut. But you've decided that this guy, without producing a business plan, is a good fit for the seaside community we all live in. So who is he? He lives in my neighborhood, supposedly, on Gibson Avenue? I don't think so. His name is on the Narragansett, Rhode Island rental registration form, and I've never seen a Connecticut plate in the driveway since he bought the house.
Thank you.
By the way, he bought the house as a single family, and he got a sweet deal and turned it into a condominium. You know, Matthew, you say thank you to me, and that disrespects me because you're not thanking any of us here.
Thank you.
And I was going to say...
I'm trying to run a meeting. I mean, I get lectured about democracy all the time, but there's a misunderstanding about how democracy works, which is you come to a meeting, you make your arguments, usually in a respectful manner, but some people obviously can't do that. And then there's a discussion, and then the elected body votes. My first term, I was on the minority on a lot of votes. I've expressed it. I could have come forward and I could have grandstanded and grandstanded.
No, Matt, you never
I could
had the
have-
guts
right,
to approach
right.
the podium.
So,
That's the
thank
reality. You
Thank
sat
you.
quietly in the back and
Thank
said
you.
nothing because you didn't have
Thank
the
you.
guts. And
Thank
you know
you.
what,
Thank-
Matthew? You
excuse
three
me.
lack the
Excuse me.
heart. You lack the
Come-
hearts of a
Ma'am.
public servant, but like the
Excuse me.
Tin Man,
Ma'am.
you
Excuse-
really lack the
Ma'am.
heart.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
The next person who can't control themselves will be removed, and we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Are we taking a break?
No. I said the next person who behaves like that is going to be removed.
Philip Cody, 109 Westmoreland Street. So, with the anticipated vote of the town council this evening, you will now have countermanded the will of the people, which had been clearly expressed in a 2016 bond referendum for the new library. In past town council meetings, Ms. Lawler has stated that elections have consequences. And theoretically, she is correct. But apparently that's only true sometimes, because bond referenda don't count if you got the right town council people up there. What you three are doing here tonight is just plain wrong, and it's inexcusable. Now to the matter at hand. During the last town council meeting, one of you three stated that the town should not be in the real estate business, renting or leasing property. So how have you rectified this? You've turned our municipality into a lending bank. With the proposed 3-year loan to Mr. Muda and PKV LLC, the buyer's from out of state. He's an unknown entity, and as multiple people have pointed out this evening, he hasn't been vetted properly. Have you done your due diligence? Mr. Mannix, you state in your summary of this motion that the loss of successful businesses like the IGA and Pit and Patio have caused the center of town to lose its vibrancy. I don't think there's any question that it's lost its vibrancy. In point of fact, though, these were not successful businesses. They failed. They failed for whatever reason. Seasonal business. Your desire to get things back to the way they were during your childhood does not constitute a good business plan for this town. Mr. Mannix, you and Mr. Lima and Ms. Lawler have decided to turn down millions of dollars from OLIS when you decided not to proceed with the library project. You have failed, you three have failed miserably in your fiduciary duty to this town and to the citizens that you're supposed to be representing. Shame on you. Your legacy will be to have given away the center of town yet again to a developer whose business model for a food court may well be just as successful as the IGA and Pit and Patio were. This guy's gonna lose it, and he's gonna flip the property, and unlike you three business geniuses, he is going to get an assessment, and he's gonna list it, and he's gonna make a bundle on our backs. Please don't forget that even angry mobs are concerned, disenfranchised, and informed voters. I want to thank Jesse and Patrick for their patronage and support of all this time, even though they represent different spectrums on the political front. They get it. They're here to represent us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Lori Kelly, Wildfield Farm. So this seems disturbing in many ways. Yes, we at the library believe the will of the people of 5,109 people who voted for this new library project should be respected. Not one of you sitting up there got anything like 5,100 votes. So sincerely, when people go out and vote, we should listen to them. But several things need clarity tonight on this proposed sale. The way the P&S reads, it looks to me like no cash deposit was required before this deal was negotiated. Is this true? Would anyone like to answer? Mark Davis?
It's not a question and answer period, but make your comments.
Well, then we'll go to the press, and maybe they can get to the bottom of it. Because I have emails that say from Mr. Davis, I know there were at least 3 people who tried to bid on this building and received an email that said in part, let me find where it is on my thing, make a reasonable good faith cash deposit and I will show it to the council. So if you were negotiating with an out-of-state guy without allowing our wonderful local developers, of which many of them live in town and would have interest on the building, I think that's a fiduciary responsibility that you walked away from. But I'm not a solicitor. Second,
Lori,
you speak.
Mrs. Kelly, I'll answer the question because it's out now anyway.
That's all right.
So my understanding is that there was not a deposit put down with that offer.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, you speak glowingly of the Hartford project. Is it on time, on budget? Is it open? Do we know any of this? Or are we talking about theoretically he's promised this deal that he's also promised Hartford, but we've seen nothing out of him? So again, I know you won't answer, but again, the press could probably find the articles on that. It does seem that there is no town ordinance that permits the town to lend taxpayer funds. Can the solicitor point to any ordinance, charter, provision of state law that permits Narragansett officials to directly lend taxpayer dollars to any private individual or business? And again, rhetorical for now, but we hope that the solicitor will investigate this with due diligence before this goes forward. And it should not be in my last 2 years of experience. It should be researched everywhere in the state and town to protect the taxpayer, of which everyone out here is a taxpayer. And in the businesses that spoke out, I want to repeat that Jill and Matt raised the commercial tax rate to 140% of residential, which is a burden on these fine people who serve the community of Narragansett. And we go out and we give free money to someone else. How about helping the people that support our community day in and day out? And that's all I got. Thank you.
The tax rate for commercial was actually reduced 10% by the council last term, from 150 to 140. So I think that's an important point.
Yeah, but the single tax rate was law for 4 months, and the new council.
But it was never put in as it was never a tax change in the budget.
Well, I know, but it was law.
So it was a theoretical. It was a theoretical change.
It didn't get executed because
there was a reduction
it would be
to
nice,
10%.
guys. It's open forum. I thought
It's not open forum,
I thought
Carol.
it was open
It's
later.
not open forum.
Well,
Open
the
forum's
motion.
later.
Couldn't you
We're gonna
guys have argued before we got up here?
Carol, I
Please.
haven't put your timer on, so I want to. So that's a fact. Again, we get misled with things that aren't true, and I'm not going to be lectured by a board of trustees that had over $500,000 surplus that is squirreled away of taxpayer money. Again, over $500,000 of taxpayer money. I'll say it again: over $500,000 of taxpayer money that they squirreled away and was supposed to be used to fix things like the roof, and they didn't do it. So I'm not going to be lectured about that by an irresponsible board.
Okay. All right. Carol Fortin, 10 Cross Road.
Single tax rate.
Prime real estate, commercial property. 2018 assessment, $3.4 million. And we are selling it for a bargain basement price. Voted 67.8. 0 votes from the taxpayers for what's going to happen this evening. 0 votes. 67.8 for the bond issue. I'm asking for you to table this evening. I'm talking business. I'm not talking library. I'm talking financial fiduciary responsibility. Okay, I was actually looking forward. I've been here before, and people that have projects, they come, they have a media presentation. I was looking forward to see if I could support this buyer. No presentation, no buyer. Mark Davis did try to represent the buyer, but that's not good enough. I really wanted a presentation. I wanted to see what would this concept look like. Maybe it would be good, but he's not here. Then we talk about the risk for the town. First of all, we shouldn't get in a mortgage deal. That's my taxpayer money, and nobody asked me if I did that. Matter of fact, when I was looking at this $50,000 deposit, $700,000 at closing, only paying interest. How come we didn't know about that? I would put some cash on the table. This is a perfect setup. This is terrific. I could have made a bundle on this, but I wasn't able to do that because everything was hidden in executive session. So that's unfortunate. Concerns I have about the buyer. I mean, he could be a fine gentleman. I'm not knocking the guy down, okay? Proof of funds, 0. Business plan, 0. Do we see something wrong here? You know, and you know, Ms. Lawley, I don't even see how you could put your stamp of approval on this deal. You know better. You're a professional. And I feel bad about that because you're going to put your stamp of approval on this deal. Now, this buyer, okay, in Connecticut, has his place open? No. Construction behind? Yes. The construction started out at $3.5 million. He's now up to $5.1 million. He's not using any of his money. Okay, he's not using his money, and he's back to this Hartford asking for more money for his plan because of all the construction upcharges that appear to be going on. This is a terrible, terrible deal. I'm asking you to table it so that gentleman can come back and present to these taxpayers and myself his plan. Maybe it's good, but I'd like to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Richard Vangermersh, 55 Osceola. Now, I personally would have preferred a meeting here in which we would have finalized the library in the 15,500 square foot, but nobody can get along. And we, unfortunately, are getting close to the deadline where the town is going to be out the money. 2.8 minus what we have for the liquor store. And I laugh at Gil Bain having a wine tasting up the second floor. How anyone in this community couldn't believe Gil Bain after all 50 years of mismanagement is beyond me. So we're stuck. And as a member of the Finance Committee, I want to get as much back as we can. We are getting a down payment. To me, this is an installment purchase more than a mortgage. Admittedly, there's a balloon payment here, but we're talking about a losing structure. I can't count you how many times that 15,500 square foot has failed. It's failed, it's failed, it's failed. We have someone now who's willing to take a risk, and it might work. I think it's quite correct that the students might get very fascinated by it, and that would provide a year-round business. The risk is there. I think if people feel that we have adequate, we can attach adequate resources of the person, we can take it. And so this may affect my golf game tomorrow, but Personally, if you feel, and Mark feels, that there is coverage of failure if this project fails, it's better than having an empty building.
Thank you.
Good evening. Carol Stewart, beautiful seaside Eastwood Look resident, Foster Lane. Currently loud when I left at 9:30, but that's another story. I want to emphasize the necessity for vetting and research and gaining as much information from someone who's going to purchase a building in our town. And people have mentioned before business plans. There's such things as SWOT analysis. I worked for a large corporation. I developed contracts. I had to oversee them. I'm not in the real estate business, and then I was on the Economic Development Committee for this town, which was not terribly successful, but I saw the failures there in attempting to revitalize the pier. I've made suggestions to a number of people over the years that I've lived here, trying to say how to make this town more lively, more business-friendly. I've talked to people about the lack of helping businesses when they come into town and try to run a business, and I go to it, and it doesn't have any hours on its door, and I'm saying, who's in charge of helping these people make successes? I've done this on my own because I cared about the town. I still care about the town. I did my research. I found out about Mr. Carlos Moto, if I have his name right. Found out about his loans, his revitalization of a drug-infested, downtrodden section of Hartford, his attempt to do something there, and how he was going about it. So therefore, I started looking at what he wanted to do here. And I said, can this be successful here? So I researched, and that's what I want to know. Did the town council do its due diligence? Did it research? Do you know what food courts should be, where they should be located, the demographics? You need pedestrian traffic. You need foot traffic. You need it to be in a busy complex so that it's a spin-off. It's an impulse place to go to usually. Now, I know you say it's going to be a European environment, but whatever it is, it's not going to be in a location that has the demographics to support it. Our town is losing population. We know that. We know what the population is in the summer. We know what it is for 9 months. We want to encourage families and all. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going over. But my point is, my last important point that I wanted to mention, food courts, to be successful, need to be in a busy location. Food places that are impulse dining places where you just pop in need to be where there's traffic and people, and there is none in the pier. Now, the other point is, I will just mention very briefly, because I know I'm going to be cut off, what else I researched, because there was a comment in the summary about a flawed argument about libraries helping revitalize.
So, Carol, why don't you share that with Terry?
Economic-based studies.
Share that with Terry, and then we'll move to the next speaker. You can give that to Terry, that article, please.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Because let's think about demographics and foot traffic. A library is busy all year long with everybody, little children, moms and dads, senior citizens. It's traffic and people going all the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Hi, my name's Joanne Walsh-Ruth. I live on 120 Tupelo Trail. This is my very first town council meeting. I have to say I'm very impressed by the passion of the community. We're talking about a library. We're not talking about a casino, God forbid, coming to Narragansett. But I think what's struck me mostly is the support for the library and no support for this other business coming to town. My question, not for an answer, where is the support? Is there any support in this room without, maybe a handful of people? Is there any support for this venture? It seems there isn't. That's
Thank you.
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. Usually I don't have anything written down, but I actually put some notes down because it's my understanding when you were talking about the bond issues not needing to be spent. In the 20 years of bond issues in Narragansett, there's been 6 passed. The library was the second highest and the only one not to be spent. So I'm pretty sure that that's fact. So you can talk about, well, we don't have to do it. But this is the understanding when you pass a bond issue that it is a vote by the people. Do you want this item? And you expect to get it. So since it's the only one we haven't gotten, that's kind of. And as far as I agree with the woman who just spoke, because I sent an email to all the town council members. Of course, I get a response, never from Mr. Lima or Ms. Lawler. And it was all about how libraries are, they faded a little bit, but they're making such a comeback. They generate such community spirit, such a volume of businesses because it's foot traffic. And as I had my grandkids with me, we went to the library, then I let them go into the businesses, and a lot of them, the doors were shut, and this is a nice afternoon. I went into a couple of them, and they all supported the library. That was their big hope. They said that would do the most for their business, not another food area. You can phrase it any way you want. And as far as this person, I said this last time I spoke, where's the figures? Where's the proof that this is such a good deal? And once again, Narragansett Town Council meeting, that's not doing it for me. And you 3 saying, oh, but it's going to be this, it's going to be that. You're not buying it. You are going to float part of this loan because you're residents of the town. But I've been here, and even for little, small establishments, nothing of this size, where they're buying the spot themselves. They're not asking for anything from the town. There's been the owner here. There's been a lawyer. There's been a detailed plan, hours of operation. It's so, I don't see anything. This person couldn't take the time to show up and face this crowd because he knows he's not doing anything to support our community. He's working against this town. And there are a lot of people that won't support it. And I looked into his other places. It's way, way behind. I didn't know the crime rate, but that thing is full of delays. He's already up to his ears in debt. This is like got Kurt Schilling all over it. And all my friends have said, follow the money. Somebody's making money off this, and it's not the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Stan Wojciechowski in Narragansett. I was reading a paper, an older paper here, where the treasurer and
Stan, we can't hear you.
The treasurer, Seth Magazine, released this year debt affordability study, and it mentions in Narragansett the town comes dangerously close to meeting the recommended limits for governmental debt services. So I'm always interested in being fiscally responsible, if you will. And, the existing library works. Do we really need a larger library in a different spot? The existing library I think, should be open 9 to 9. You know, why aren't we open 9 to 9? Certainly, we should utilize our existing facility to the maximum.
They're right, Stanley. You need to stay on topic, please.
Say again?
Can you please stay on topic of the purchase? You can have time in open forum to comment about the library, but.
Oh, yeah, so it was not supposed to purchase of the library?
We're
I don't think we need, I'm not so sure we need a purchase of extra land when the existing real estate works. And if we can do what we have to do with the existing real estate as it is now, why do we have to spend money on something else? Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. Tom Hines, Piping Ploper Drive, Narragansett. I just want to make an observation about process. Unlike those of you who've been lucky enough to have resided here all your lives, I'm an adopted son of this town, discovered it about a quarter of a century ago, and the rest is history. We're here full time now. At a stage in my life, I worked in the state of New York, and I was on the board of an entity known as the Job Development Authority, which granted funding to entrepreneurial entities that could produce jobs that would be worthwhile for the state citizens who needed good work. I will tell you from what I've heard tonight, what has been purported as a representation of what this quote-unquote business plan is, which, by the way, is all hearsay because we don't have the person who is making these claims present. We're taking it secondhand from representations of people here in the room. But even those pieces of it that we've heard so far, I would tell you that as a member of that Job Development Authority board, I would have never reviewed a proposal like this because it would have never been vetted by the most junior member of the professional staff of the authority because it lacks substance completely and is devoid of content. I think it's a disservice to the taxpayers of this wonderful town to have something that's so nebulous and ethereal, and it has been done behind closed doors, presented as a purported deal. So based on what we've heard, none of which is direct or documentary evidence of what an actual business plan would be, I think it's foolish, very foolish to go forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maggie Reinstein. I live at 111 Wood Hollow Road. I grew up as Margaret Gershkoff at 16 Martin Road in Narragansett. And I've been listening tonight to all the impassioned arguments from your taxpayers, from the people of Narragansett. I really do not understand how the town council can reach any decision but one to table at this point. You've had enough reasons of holes in the presentation, and the very fact that Mr. Muta is not here to present what his plan is. I was kind of surprised at that. I do know the value of a library. I'm a grandmother. I have a 4-year-old grandson who looks forward every week to the time when he can grab his satchel and go off to the library and get 5 or 6 more books for this week. I've also come back to this area after living in a lot of other places in this nation, in places, big urban areas, where they do have food courts like the Grand Market in Los Angeles. And the lady who did her research is right. You need foot traffic. So you need foot traffic 12 months of the year. You know that you have 12 months of the year that you have people using your library. I'll remind you when Gina Raimondo was introducing herself to this state and first running for governor and facing an incredible fiscal desperate situation in the state. She was talking about services that she felt were important and should not be cut. And she was talking about her grandfather going down to the Providence Library and educating himself and learning and going forward with his life because he had that library. And the last thing I'll leave you with, because I know, okay, I'm almost out of time. I have seen, since I've moved back to this area, I've seen, this is the 3rd example where I've seen a town gets in the New York Times. People think that they're going to become the new Southampton. People told Eben, the glassblower in Wakefield, that, you know, they were the new Wakefield was the new Southampton, and they were going to raise his rent 3 times. He went on to open a new area and has a thriving business. People told Painted Karma that they were over in Peacedale, and the landlord came in and said, no, 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 I can get way, way, way more rent. None of that came to pass. And I'm afraid that the same thing is going to happen here with this idea. I know you all 5 care about this town. Please table this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila Sweeney, 39 Sunset Shores Drive, Narragansett. My one question or statement is, where in the world is Carlo? Thank you.
I, Anita Langer, 241 Colonel John Gardner Road. As many of you know, that I am a realtor in town, and I honestly can't believe this deal. I would never have written this P&S agreement without some built-in, that there's got to be some guarantees here. You've got the guy putting down 2.5%. Usually you put down at least 5. He's shown no proof of funds. He is not getting a mortgage, so there's no mortgage clause. Reason he's not getting a mortgage is because he can't get one. No bank or banking institution would ever allow this kind of loan. Giving somebody a 3-year term, 5%, 5.5%, with no guarantees that the town has right of first refusal, that is a very big mistake. The default should be spelled out. And besides that, I have a question about your interlocal trust, which is your insurance carrier. All towns have to be insured, and they're insured by the interlocal trust because it would be prohibitive to get commercial insurance. So I'm asking you, is there any clause in your interlocal trust that allows you to be a mortgage backer, that allows you to lend money? Because if this guy defaults, you are going to need money for legal fees to get yourself out of this. So are they covering you for that, or is that an exclusion? I have recently read the interlocal trust for liability and property coverage for the Bonnet Shores Fire District, of which I am a council member on. And I have read it cover to cover. I'm not sure any of you have. That's a big issue, very big issue. I also ask you to table this and get more information, as well as see what kind of built-in guarantees you can get. Because this is not a sound business transaction.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Tansey. I don't reside in Narragansett, but I represent it as a state representative. I've spoken to people all over the state in the time since this has been listed. In fact, I heard about it, and I honestly could not believe that it was true. And then when I saw it with my own 2 eyes that it was listed, I have been making phone calls since Thursday, speaking to people and asking if they have ever heard of a town holding the note for a private business. And the answer to a T has been no. No one that I spoke with has heard of a town doing this. We've heard from someone tonight that it is against our town charter, that the amount is in excess of what the town is able to do, and We just heard about questions about the interlocal trust. Where is the due diligence on this? It gives me no joy to stand up here and ask this question, but I feel compelled to. You all are about to take a vote on something that has only had a very brief public vetting and appears to not have a very good vetting to begin with, for it to even appear before you. And while I'm not a banker, I can't think of the last time that I've heard of an interest-only payment, interest-only loan with a $1.3 million balloon payment. In fact, the last time I heard of something like this was right before the financial collapse. This was a common practice back then when people didn't do their due diligence, when people thought that it was the boon time and that properties were just going to continue to escalate in value. That's not happening. That's not the reality. I beg of you to table this. I beg of you to not take this vote tonight. There is no rush to do this, and I ask, how can you do this to the town? So many of you, well, I've heard the criticism over and over again about how the town gave away the center of the town years ago. And I feel like that's what we're doing all over again. And I ask you to not do it. Thank you.
Paulette Chambers, 40 Lambert Street. I just have a couple of questions to think about, well, and a comment. I remember when the Ford dealership on Woodruff Avenue was being proposed. That man came in with all kinds of plans. They even had bushes on the plans. So everybody knew what that place was going to be like. And what I've heard between Jill and Matt is that, in fact, two different things were being described: a food court and some kind of European market. Both of them sound lovely, but which is it? And so maybe we should hear what he has really to say. I have heard, even before this, that he's very much in debt and has not done well. My question about the agreement, the purchase agreement is there a guarantee that he will have insurance? What happens if the building burns and then he defaults? So, okay, the town gets the land back, but not a building, if there's no insurance and he's not, he's not going to pay. And the other thing is there any stipulation that he has to keep that area, that building, in certain condition? So in case he defaults, we get something back that's still of value. And those are just questions if maybe that has to be in an agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no one else, does anyone from the council have anything they want to add?
Yeah, I just got one more thing to say. I think under the circumstances and the pulse of the community, I think we should, I'm going to put a motion out there to continue.
Yeah, I would.
Is there a second to that?
I will second that. I think it not only gives the council and the solicitor time to look over the PNS again, it also gives the buyer a chance to present his case publicly, which is something that he deserves the chance to do, and we'd like to see him. So I would second that, yeah.
All right, any commentary on that? All right, all in favor of motion to continue?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No. Motion fails 2-3. All right, so we go to the underlying motion. I'm going to the underlying motion, which is to approve the sale of the old Belmont IGA building to PKV LLC for the purchase price of $2,070,145, and to authorize the town of Narragansett to enter into a purchase and sales agreement for the sale of this real estate. I just restated the motion. Don't get excited. We had already said it once earlier, but I just want to make clear that it was the underlying motion we're back to. Any comments on that from the council?
Yeah, Matt, do you realize we've got at least one lawsuit, okay? Possible, there may be others. By voting on this tonight and not vetting this project out further, you're opening the town to litigation. Now, how is that saving money? I know you're a conservative and you want to save money, but the path we're going down is a legal entanglement of financial unknowns. We should continue this. Let this get vetted more. Let's scrutinize that purchase and sales agreement so we have a first right of refusal and vet it some more.
Yeah,
Anyone
actually,
else?
related to that, I've heard over the last few days from some local, some people in the community, business owners and others, that they were not aware, and this is true, they were not aware that the property was listed. And the reason for that is that it's never been listed. It's been voted to sell, but never listed. And if you're not paying attention to town council meetings, if you have other things going on, if you have a family, if you have a job, you're not paying attention to everything that's happening in terms of town business and at these meetings. So why are we rushing to sell this to somebody from out of state that doesn't have the money when this could go out and be listed and you can give other people from around here a chance to put in their plans and to put in their bids? I don't know what the rush is.
Since January 22nd, when you proposed this to put the building back on the market, I still don't know what the asking price is. I mean, that's the basics of all marketing. You got to have some kind of asking price, list price. Can you tell me that, what the price is? Still no.
We've offered it for sale, Patrick. Is there anything?
But what's the price? What is the price?
We've covered this, Patrick. What, do you have any
How about, Ricky, do you know what the list price is? Jill? Anybody? The list price. What the hell is the list price of this
Patrick,
building?
we've covered this. We've talked
No, we
about
haven't
this.
covered it. You
Thank
won't give me an answer.
So we have, it was a mentioning of a lawsuit. The lawsuit, the basic, no, there's one.
Yeah, well, wait
There's
till
one.
tomorrow.
There's one lawsuit. The source of the lawsuit, which lawsuit are you referring to? Whose lawsuit? Which lawsuit are you referring to? Who's the plaintiff in the lawsuit?
Every time you put an agenda item, it turns into a lawsuit.
Why don't you, you brought up the lawsuits. You share with the public the lawsuits.
You tell me the list
You
price.
share
I'll
with
let you let all the lawsuits.
The lawsuits.
Tell me the tell me
we
the
have
list
the
price.
second.
What's
We
the
had
list
a
price?
letter today, right, regarding problems with the deal, and I think we've clearly marked our solicitor. Talked about how there was no restriction put in that purchase and sales agreement or in the deed restriction regarding the. That's not what I'm talking about, and thank you for yelling out. Does anyone on this side want to speak to this motion?
No.
All right.
Let's make a
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion
Definitely.
approved 3-2. Thank you. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Thank you. All right, we're going to come back to order. Thank you, everybody. Our next item is a motion to schedule, if you can take your seats, 21 is a motion to schedule a work session with the Parks and Recreation Department regarding beach policies and fees for the 2020 season.
So moved.
Second.
A date that we're looking at. We usually try to do this on an off Monday, but we have the Columbus Day, so the day after Columbus Day would be Tuesday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. That would be the date and time of this. I just want to make sure that that works for the council members.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, so, and just so everyone knows what this is, we do this every year, and this will give time, Steve, to prepare his findings and the data from the season. So, and then after that date, we put on a motion for the new beach policies and fees. So again, this is for Tuesday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This motion is approved 5-0. Item 22 is a motion to schedule a work session to conduct public interviews for all current zoning board applicants.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
The only thing I'd like to include is to also include anybody who might be watching tonight. So not only the ones that we have on right now, but I've talked to a couple people over the last few days that have interest. So if we can give them more time to apply, so if we could make that change, I would appreciate it.
So, sure. I can. You want me to reread the? You want me to amend it then?
Just amend it to give some additional time, so anyone who is learning about an opening and zoning right now would have the time to put an application in.
Well, we haven't picked a date.
Yeah, we haven't picked a date. If it's the wording,
Yeah,
I don't
just-
think I'm specific. All current zoning. So I
Current
would
zoning, yes.
Can we do it on
That
the
would be great.
15th?
So
we could. So do we?
So does this mean that the people who are already on the zoning board, we're not going to put them back in?
They would interview.
So if you interview them and want to put them back in, and you're going to interview everybody else, why are you interviewing everybody else if you're fine with who's there now?
Well, if we're fine, then we would
Excuse me?
select. Sorry.
Go
Excuse
ahead.
me, you have something to say?
If
now you're talking.
So basically, we would interview
Should've
everyone.
left before.
And if we prefer the current applicant or the current member, we could select them. It's just opening it up to give other applicants a chance as well.
So, but Ricky makes a good point. We've been through this many different times in many different ways. So the whole concept is you want to do the interviews for the open seats because there's no track record of those people. But the people who are up there, I go sometimes to zoning board meetings over the years. I know when appointments are coming up, I kind of get a feel for how they interact. And so if my sentiment is that I'm going to vote for them, then the applicants who are coming in that we're going to interview, and because this happened once, I remember distinctly, it was with Mr. Brunetti's spot, and we interviewed people who were going for the seat, and he was the incumbent, and it was very awkward because everybody was in sentiment that they wanted to reappoint him, and yet all these people came forward and we interviewed them, and they didn't. It was it was almost rude because it was like we knew what we were going to do. The interviews were awkward, and then that's why this has been this way. It's never been kind of settled. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that you have people, they come forward, they put their names in with an application. If you don't interview them, you're not leading them on. But I guess what I'm asking the council is there a sentiment to make a change? If there is, you should do the interviews. If there's not, they're a waste of time, and they're actually misleading to the other members.
So this
Right.
this is to honor the promise we all made in the forum during the election that we said we would hold public interviews for all zoning and planning committee seats. So we're following through with that. Again, 4 out of 5 of us said we would do that, and I'm going to follow through and do that tonight. So I'm going to vote for that. I have no thoughts on whether I'm going to approve a seat for a current member. So I'd like to see all applicants and make a decision based on that.
I agree with Jesse.
The problem, though, with that is that if they're an incumbent, their performance is based on their performance on the board, right? So you can go to those meetings and view that.
Well,
it's really not the interview. I mean,
it
someone
is the
could sell
interview.
you a bill of goods that they've been on for 5 years that's totally opposite of what they've
We
been
know
doing.
about that.
So
Bill
part
of
of it's like basically a review. You can ask them why they voted for certain things. You can ask them what their opinion is on certain things. It's not all about the votes at the meeting. Also, none of us go to all the meetings. So to be able to ask questions directly and find out the motives for things, that's the value of it, in my opinion. And again, if I say something while I'm campaigning, I'm going to follow through and do what I said I was going to do. So.
Right, but it was a yes/no question in a forum where it's really about the open seats. I mean, that's kind of how I interpreted the question at the time, is that we do that for open seats.
So if we could take it away from the question that we had and just look at the motion on the agenda, and the motion is to interview all, and I agree with Jesse, I think we should interview all the new candidates, and I'd like to have the other zoning members, current zoning members there. We might vote to put them back in the seats. We might vote to put somebody new in.
Couldn't we just alter the motion and we'll meet on the 15th and discuss all the two boards, or I guess there's the zoning board, and look at the candidates, and if everybody's good with the candidates, I mean, Terry's providing the attendance record. To me, it's all attendance. If somebody's on a board and they show up and they're there 80, 90% of the time, they're in, as far as I'm concerned. That's a warm body. They're making decisions. From what I understand, the continuity on the zoning board is just fine. So I don't think there's really a reason to pick through it, but maybe we should just discuss it on the 15th and see if there's a reason to conduct interviews at this time. So it's kind of like a...
I'm going to keep the motion as is, and if you want to vote it down, that's your prerogative.
Can I abstain?
But if it was a different board, Patrick, maybe I'd be in agreement. If it was Parks and Recreation, sorry, Steve, not to make Parks and Recreation, but the planning and zoning boards are our two most important, influential boards in town. They have so much say into the future of our town. So I just really do think it's an important thing that we.
I know the board. I know the attendance. I know the records. I drifted in and out of there, and I got no problem with everybody on there at this time. So.
Right, if we're going to reappoint them and you're going to interview other people, then you're kind of leading those other people on to them. Then you're kind of leading those people on as far as you want to interview them, but yet they're not even going to be up for the positions. I mean, if you want to make a change, that's fine. I have no problem with, you want to make a change, then this council can make a change. But the people who are there now, if there's not going to be a change, then I would say move on with them.
All right, so then there's a motion to schedule the work session. Is there a suggested date for that? Probably would be in maybe late October.
During I would suggest an off night to do that, so we're not rushed going into the meeting.
So that'd be the 28th, probably.
Sure.
All right. What time? If we were going to do a time on that?
I would say 6, give people time to get back from work.
Because also we give Terry time to schedule it if it went forward. Okay, so that'd be October 28th at 6. But there's discussion. Yes.
Thank you, Council President. Margaret Rogers, 68 Earls Court, Narragansett.
Vote to enact a policy requiring the town council to conduct public interviews for individuals seeking reappointment to the zoning and planning boards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, but I'd take a hard look at their attendance record. Yes.
Yes, and I'd also like to take a look at televising both the planning and zoning board meetings.
Okay, so there was nothing ambiguous about that question. Matthew, nothing. That's another example of how you gaslight the audience. There was nothing ambiguous about that question when the League of Women Voters asked you that before the election. We all heard it, okay? So now you're backing down and you're saying, well, that was my interpretation of the question, but you didn't deliver a nuanced answer, and you have, in the yes and no portion of the debate, often delivered a nuanced answer. So don't gaslight us. We know what you said, and now you're backing away from it. Why? Well, I have an interesting question. Number one, Ms. Lawler wants to add her homies that she's recruited to serve on the zoning board who can approve the new food court because she's gone out and recruited people. That's her MO, right? That's why she wants to open it up and extend the panel to people who have not applied previously, and the poor soul that's been waiting 2 or 3 years to have her or his say that, you know, that's okay because Jill can go out and recruit the new folks. And I have an interesting question. The zoning board may have a lot of buy-in on this because we have to make sure that the right people are on the zoning board, because what is the signage for the food bazaar going to look like? I imagine all those 20 kitchens are going to each want their own sign and advertisement. So beware of how you vote on this tonight. Think very carefully if you're going, because you don't have 3 votes, so it really doesn't matter. She's recruited the new people, and they'll step forward, and that will be how it is. And you can laugh, Jill, but this is exactly what you did the night you dismantled the EDC. You recruited someone out of the EDCs to serve on the land trust. He's done a great job, but you have a track record here. Thank you.
So I was kind of ready to to vote to schedule the interviews, but after that routine, I'll go back to my initial instinct, and you can play the tape all you want from a yes, no, which there's a whole 2-hour debate that we go through. And we have always said for 6 years that this is hard when there's an incumbent, if it's an incumbent who's going to be reappointed, and everybody knows their track record, why are you going to waste the time with non-incumbents? And it's really about the open seats. That's really what it's about. That's why you need interviews for open seats. For people who are already on the boards, we can go and watch them. That's part of our duty as elected officials to go, that's the interview, right? That's the interview, is you go and watch their performance. So thank you, Meg, but that's...
But if the question
done.
says very specifically, would you schedule interviews for reappointments, and you say yes, why don't you just say no?
I really don't even remember the question in the debate.
I just heard
Jesse.
it.
Yeah. Right, it's great, but I don't remember every nuance. And there was a minor point when we're talking about single tax rate and library and bigger issues. It's a yes/no question. When you're confronted with a yes/no question, you basically say yes or no.
So why didn't you say no?
Because I said what I said. I thought it was for the open seats. That's
So when
what
you
I heard.
say yes, you really mean
So
no?
let's
So
stick
you
to
know what?
Jesse's motion.
Play-
Can we stick to Jesse's
Yeah,
motion?
you guys, it's really, you've all watched the debates, it's a thing where you're yes or no. I thought it was about the open seat. So is there a motion? There's a motion on the table for scheduling this work session. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No. Motion fails 2-3.
I can't handle another meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, Terry, what?
It's after 11 p.m., and according to the town council rules, no item of business other than that of adjournment may be brought before the town council at any meeting unless such item is introduced before 11 p.m.
Okay, is there? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Most moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
What's your vote? Motion approved 4-1. Thank you. Good night, everybody.